Tonight's session has been one that's been due to be spoken about for quite a while. It was inspired by a meeting. I bumped into someone who was to meet me for the first time and talk about how much they've been enjoying the content over the years, and especially enjoying the community, and really looked forward to their Thursday night on the couch with a dram taken in the vPub. Exactly what the vPub is designed to be. Perfect. I was caught by a comment that they said, though. As he was speaking to me, he apologized for not yet being a barfly. He said he hadn't worked out how to do that yet. He hadn't worked out how to step forward to pay and sign up to be a barfly. I realized immediately that he'd gotten it wrong, that he thought that to be a barfly, you had to subscribe to something, or you had to join some kind of club or some kind of subscription. And I realized that that was confusing, and maybe the way I'd describe it, maybe the way it's set up and things is a wee bit confusing and needs a wee bit of clarification. I try and talk about it ever so slightly every week, but tonight we're going to go into the whole thing. We're going to talk about YouTube memberships. We're going to talk about the Barflies. We're going to talk about Patreon. We're going to talk about free products, free whiskey, free partnerships, affiliate links, all of these kind of things. We're going to talk about how the vPub is structured, what I take as my cut, and what the platforms take as their cut, and why I choose to do it in such a way. I wonder how that's going to go down. Regardless, in the interest of transparency, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm looking forward to it as always, and I'll see you in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the vPub. Welcome to another Thursday night. I can see already it's going to be a busy one tonight, and I kind of half expect that, I suppose, if I put up a thumbnail that's got free whiskey written across it. Free whiskey is very much part of the topics that we're going to talk about tonight. Free whiskey it's a bit of a lubricant, let's say. It's a bit of I don't know, could you call it a trade? Could you call it something? But free whiskey is certainly something. I don't know how much it is these days compared to the way it used to be, but it's certainly something that is used in order to help people generate content. Let me say at the outset, however, that despite everything I'm going to share with you tonight, you have to understand that everything I'm going to share with you is about me, my community, my channel, my platforms, my projects, my focus, and the way that I very specifically choose to do things. And it is in no way intended to, nor if I succeed tonight, I have in no way even attempted to throw shade on any other practical model out there that exists in order to make something endure. So whether that's affiliate links, partnerships, sponsorships, free stuff, or whether it's community funded, independent, focused, whatever it is, there are ways for it all to function out there. What I do hope I achieve tonight is to draw a line under everything with a big exclamation mark, and just asking that everyone does it in a transparent way. That should be obvious in 2024, of course. But I'm going to discuss the way that I've set things up from the beginning since 2017, and everything I share with you tonight will be through that lens and in the context of me and my environment. A wee bit of a disclaimer just to kick things off tonight. I'm sure you understood that anyway. I'm sure nobody's actually here for me to throw free whiskey into the lounge. And I know that nobody's here in order to hear me spout controversy over any other content creator or any other platform that exists out there. Anyway, welcome everybody. I hope your Thursday night is very, very good. Mine is shaping up quite nicely because I'm getting to hang out with you guys for another wee vPub session. Welcome. I hope you're all comfortable. I've actually got a free whiskey in the glass tonight, and very tasty it is too. So the way I'm going to set things up tonight is I'm just going to pull up some prompts for me to remind me and to kind of keep me on track. I hope that tonight might be a tidy, neat, shorter than usual vPub. But I know that that's naive to speak like that, right? And once you kind of open a couple of bottles of whiskey, and once you talk about the whiskies and where they came from and things, and then all of the other topics that we're going to lace it with, we end up running into, the usual 2.5, sometimes more, hour vPub. Remember, if you're watching this live, just stay as long as you can. If it's getting a wee bit late for you, pick it the rest up on the replay. Come back and participate in the quiz on the replay, whatever you want to do. And if you are already picking this up on the replay, thank you very, very much. I do appreciate it. But you'll find, hopefully, if I've done my homework, there are chapter markers underneath the video so you can skip ahead to the bits that you want or the bits that you're most interested in. Remember, if you do that, some nuance and detail and maybe some context could be lost. I don't speak in little boxes, unfortunately. It tends to kind of get a wee bit messy. But anyway, before we get into all of that, I'll do what I always do in the vPub, and I'll jump into the lounge and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated Barflies. See how you're all doing. Alex T has joined the Barflies tonight. He's signed up for we're going to get onto this so that I can explain exactly what Alex has done tonight. Alex, thank you very much for your support. Thank you for participating and joining the Barflies. It means a lot. And Alberto, the Road to Dram, has bought me a wee dram to say, a belated birthday dram to you. Let's give that a wee like, Alberto, so I can just say thank you to you for your dram. I had a wonderful birthday at the weekend. Fantastic. Went to the football on a Saturday. On the Sunday, what did we do on the Sunday? Went out with friends, went over to friends and hung out with them, drank lots of whiskey, maybe a bit too much. It was my birthday. That was the day of my birthday. I hope you'll forgive me. And then on the Monday, we just had a bit of a family dinner that went on a wee bit late into the evening too. Bank holiday weekend, we made the most of it. I was very, very fortunate and had a fantastic weekend. Thank you very much, Alberto. Cheers. Also, a wee dram in from a pal Major Nut, who I've not had the chance to meet yet. Looks like he's out in Sweden, and he's saying, here's to free whiskey and world where prices only seem to go up. Aye, that's right. It's an issue. It's a real issue, especially if you're starting out in whiskey today. It's a bigger issue than it's ever been. Major Nut, thank you very much for your generous dram, my friend. Cheers to you. Rico, my friend Rico Danner is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 41 months. It just shows you, I think it's 4 years now, this Barflies subscription on YouTube has been set up. There's a lot of people already been in it from the start. Fantastic, Rico. Great to have your support. And my pal Jimmy Legg is saying, if this is a vPub too short, I'll need some money back. So there's, okay, I get it. For everyone that says, I don't understand why the vPub is as long as it is, there's somebody that gets the whole vPub vibe and enjoys it and actually wants it to be a wee bit longer. Let's just keep it not long, not short. Let's keep it appropriate tonight. Let's try for that, Jimmy, shall we? Nice to see you in, fella, and thank you for your dram. While Jimmy's bought me a dram, we had a fantastic gathering in 2023. End of September, it was the 30th of September last year. Everybody landed in Glasgow for just a fantastic weekend of whiskey sharing. It culminated in us all getting together for a dinner and then going on to the Bon Accord in Glasgow to just have a bit of a night where there were a few donated bottles shared. And once those were rinsed, all the money went behind the bar at the Bon Accord. And we had a fantastic night hanging out at Glasgow, one of Glasgow's best whiskey spots. It was so good. It was so fortifying and so healthy for our community that I would be keen to take that on again this year if you are all up for it. It was inspired by our pal Jimmy Legg, who once declared that he would never travel to Scotland from Nova Scotia, Canada, where he lives, and he would never get his backside on a plane and all of these things. And then eventually, through years of participating in the community, his wife bullied him into making the plans, and they came over last year. I was never sure just how much Jimmy enjoyed it. He told me that it was fantastic, but I think they enjoyed it enough because they are coming back here again at the same time this year. I've kind of softly suggested that we don't have another leg fest. There's not going to be any pressure on Jimmy. He's just going to be coming along and participating as part of the fabric like everyone else. But we maybe have another Barfly gathering, and we've currently earmarked the 28th of September. this year for that to happen. I say earmarked. You can only pencil it in right now because I haven't spoke to the people at the restaurant. I haven't spoke to people at the Bon Accord. That date was literally fixed just in the last couple of days. Save the date for now, and there'll be more details to follow. If you're going to be in Glasgow, you're planning to travel to Scotland at the end of September, you could meet up with some fantastic whiskey folk. The last year was splendid. Tom Ballinger is celebrating being a member of the Barfly for 2 months. Thank you so much, Tom. He's saying 2 months strong. Whiskey Novice Jim in Northern Ireland is celebrating being a member for 50 months. Can he forget Legfest? Absolutely, Jim. The Hallion Battalion came over and represented strong. I hope you do come along at the end of September this year too. I know it's a big deal for you, buddy, but it'd be fantastic to have you there. And Kiwi Gore, all the way from New Zealand, unlikely for him to travel over for Legfest or any gathering here, but you never know what could happen. He's celebrating being a member of the Barfly, so 24 months. It's in vPub, amazing, even if you have to watch on the replay. Kiwi Gore, you've just dropped in for that wee comment. I know you have because it's early in the morning for you in New Zealand. But thank you to you. Thank you to Whiskey Novice Jim and Tom Ballinger as well. Cheers. And a generous donation in from David Hong. We'll talk about all of these donations and what they mean to me and everything. But he's saying, Roy, happy belated birthday. Hope all is well. David, it's all the better for having you here, my friend. I'm going to need to top up this dram in a wee second. Cheers to you all. Supposed to be welcome you all in. Let's rewind a wee bit. I'm looking for the orange, as I always do. See how you're all doing. Danny Keenan is here. Good evening, Roy. Aquavita and all the Barflies dropping in to say hello, and we'll catch you on the replay. Cheers. Danny, fantastic for you to drop in and say hello. I hope you do enjoy it when you pick it up on the replay, my friend. Wonderful to see you in Glasgow earlier this year. Hope it's not the last time. Martin Logan is saying, hi, Aquavita was going to pour a Glen Scotia double cask, which was given for free, but opted to celebrate the beginning of the sunny season with a Kuboken 12 rum cask. Fantastic, Martin. I've got the Kuboken 12 rum cask there. Interestingly, what I should have done is I should have pulled over the free whiskies that I'm aware of coming for free, but we'll talk about that a wee bit later. That it wasn't the rum cask, actually. I bought the rum cask myself, but they sent me, someone from Kuboken or Tomatin sent me a bottle of the 12-year-old Andean Oak last year. It just turned up in a box with nothing, no description, no reason why or whatever. But I've got a solution for that I'll share with you a wee bit later. Whiskey Novice Jim is saying, how's everyone doing? Don't get the chance to drop in as often as I used to. Hope you're all doing well. Belated happy birthday, Aquavita. Thank you very much, Jim. Always wonderful to have you here, my friend. Good to see you. I love seeing the Whiskey Novice icon. And Chris Banks Wildlife is here. Good to see you, Chris. Hi, Roy, having a wee dram after a great day at RAF Coningsby, visiting the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. I've taken a wee liking to World War II stories and things like that recently, Chris. I can understand the appeal there. It's really it's fascinating to me, really fascinating. Luna Aaron saying, good evening, Roy. Sounds like you are fine. I am fine, Luna. I hope you are too. A year older, Luna, but that's okay. Spotty Cooperage is here saying, evening, Aquavita. First time here live in a while. Spotty Cooperage, it's wonderful to have you in. I feel like we spoke recently and you told me who you actually were. Is that separate? Did I make that up? It's difficult to remember all the aliases at times, isn't it? Hell's Wind is here. Good to see you, Helen. I hope you and Andy are doing well. What a fabulous evening that was. She's talking about Legfest last year. Wonderful stuff. Maybe we'll see you and Andy again for it. Ryan Sutherland is saying, hey, Roy, Aquavita in the evening, Barflies. Ryan, I'm hoping that we can bump into each other soon. Maybe it needs to be up there at the very top of the country, right, big guy? Good to welcome you in as always. So does that mean you're coming to Isle Aquavita? I don't think so, Helen. I have to be honest. Never say never. But I really don't think so. Whiskey Week again. Drama saying Ali is up for it. He said in Campbelltown. Okay, he's talking about the gathering at the end of September, maybe, and that's Ali, a patron and a barfly from Springbank Distillery down in Campbelltown. Sometimes Ali joins us live. Alan Smith is saying, my birthday is the 27th of September. Alan, let's raise a wee glass for your birthday. Maybe you can make the trip to the Bon Accord. I'll buy you a dram if you make it there. And my pal, Macallan Fine and Rare, saying, must be 50 months at least as Whiskey Novice is a barfly since then. There you go, Doc. Listen, while you're in, buddy, can I take a moment to thank you? to thank you for everything, actually, your friendship, your trust in me, your endurance of me over the years from the very, very beginning, or certainly way back at the beginning, from your invite back in 2018 to join you in Germany at the whiskey festivals and things that's kind of grown arms and legs. But I really want to thank you for Frankfurt. And I've been waiting for this moment because you took care of so much organisation, so much dinner reservations. I know that everybody was involved in it. We all do, but you're just kind of, you were our shepherd for the weekend, taking care of train tickets, making sure that everybody knew what time they had to be there and where we had to be. It's wonderfully reassuring. It means that we can all relax and we're not worried about all those really difficult and stressful arrangements. Raise a wee glass to one of the channel elders, Macallan Fine and Rare, or as we like to call him, just Doc. Cheers, big guy. Whiskey 101 Nick in Belgium is saying up for it. I already assumed that Legfest has already naturally evolved into Flyfest 24. Flyfest. Oh, I'm not sure I like that one, but I like where you're coming from. Okay, just as the chat jumps, Highland Hamish is saying greetings from Inverness. Great to meet Greg Schwartz in Inverness today. I know he's doing his travels. He was at Spirit of Speyside Festival. I'll hopefully catch Greg on the way back down. And Doc is saying, cheers, Roy. That's brilliant. That's great that you were here to hear that, my friend. Peter Lee is in. Peter, should you not be working? Should you not be working? I want to mention Peter Lee, but I'll do that a wee bit later because I've got a bottle here specifically to talk about Peter Lee a bit later in the evening. You've got time though, buddy. You can continue your shift and you can come in when you're settled and relaxed. Barris is saying happy birthday, Roy. Listen, Barris, my birthday is past, my friend, but I'll accept your gracious wishes. Thank you very, very much. It was last weekend, and I feel no different at all, honestly. And Yazia, I think he's saying, hey, Roy, currently on the Isle of Mull, enjoying a dram with the vPub. We'll be going around Scotland on my motorbike in the next 2 weeks. Yazia, I hope you have a wonderful time. But more than anything, since you're on a motorbike, I hope that the weather treats you well. Enjoy Scotland, my friend. Going to pour a wee bit more of this dram. Red Mordecai is here saying my Onyx single cask vintage 2007 cask number 745 has a nutritional info. Oh wow. Kilocalories 283, okay, but fat 0, saturates 0, carbs 0, sugar 0, protein 0, salt 0. Now what's the point of printing all of that? That's right. We don't drink whiskey for sustenance, do we, Reb? We don't get any nutrients. We don't get much in the way of energy from a glass of whiskey. Well, I think we get energy for the soul. The only reason to enjoy this stuff, right, is for its aroma and for its flavor and for it to remind us of what it is to be alive. Cheers to you, Rep. Really enjoying this tonight. Really deep, rich flavor. This bottle's been open for quite a while, and I think it's benefited from a lot of air, as so many of them do. Barris has just gifted 10 Aquavitae memberships to the Barflies. Can I get some free whiskey, Roy? Nice to see you, says Peter Lee. I owe you some free whiskey, buddy. And Stephen Wilson is saying, it's only a drop in Wook bucket. Drop in the Wook bucket. Cheers, Roy. Stephen Wilson. I won't lie here that something that's accelerated this discussion a wee bit is the kind of the Wook effect, let's say. But also a lot of the chat and discussion that's come around it too. So we might be bringing that up a wee bit later, Stephen. And another wee dram coming in from my pal in the Netherlands, Daniel Williams, saying, make this sick Barfly and Roy happy. Remember to like and subscribe. I guess he's saying, I guess you might be sick. Daniel, I'm really sorry to hear that you're poorly, buddy. I'll raise a glass to say get well soon, my friend. And thanks to Barris, thanks to Peter Lee and Stephen Wilson. Oh, and I almost missed Savar Bjorgvinsson has bought me a dram from Iceland. Fantastic to see you, Savar. I always worry about how to pronounce your name. Let's catch that before it skips. And A Grain of Malt is also celebrating being a member for 49 months. A Grain of Malt, fantastic. That's my pal, James McGoran. Thank you all for your wonderful support. Very on theme, all of this coming in right now. So let's kick things off as I bring up this bottle that I poured and tell you exactly what it is, as I share with you what a Barfly is. Remember that discussion that I opened with? It's kind of, it caught me a little bit off guard when that a great guy, wonderful guy. Met him in the Bonaccord in Glasgow, just a nice chap. And he just wanted to shake my hand as he's passing and going out. And he apologised as he's leaving. He's literally stepping away from me and saying, "I'm sorry I've not stepped up to be a Barfly yet. I'm going to get onto that and do it soon." And I was just caught. And I said, "No, you're already a Barfly. There is nothing to pay to be a Barfly. This bottle was gifted to me. This is a free bottle of whiskey, but it came from a Barfly. This is an 11-year-old Thompson Brothers Blair Athol. It's a Dechar Rechar Hogshead, this one. 2011 vintage, bottled in 2022, 53.9% ABV, drinks like a mid-40s. Honestly, it's just a lovely, lovely bottle of whiskey. But this bottle was gifted to me by Barfly extraordinaire, Graham Fraser. Anyone that's a member of the Aquavitae Barflies Facebook page, anybody that's been around the vPub for long enough, anybody that's participated in a quiz at the end will know who Graham Fraser is. He's one of the most knowledgeable souls, one of the most generous souls, and one of the kindest, most gentlemanly souls in our community. I'm privileged to have Graham Fraser as part of our community. I'm privileged that he would walk up to me and gift me a bottle of whiskey. That's exactly what happened with this. Listen, I'll find a way to pay Graham Fraser back, and I'll find a way to share with Graham Fraser in the future. I meet him quite regularly. He's a member of the Glasgow Whisky Club these days too. Graham Fraser, I'm sure, would refer to himself as a Barfly. A Barfly is just someone who is part of this very specific Aquavitae community. And the reason the name Barfly came up is it's a virtual pub. You know, we've got people that are hanging out in virtual bars, you know, so they're kind of here week after week, buzzing around, and just that kind of slang term for somebody who frequents a bar space. I think it's an Americanism. It's an American term, a Barfly. It just became something that we would start to self-refer as if we chose to. If you're simply a viewer, a watcher, a listener, you can call yourself whatever you like. But in order to call yourself a Barfly, you need to do nothing other than decide that you're a Barfly. That's it. However, I confuse things. And I admit that I confuse things because joining the Barflies as part of the YouTube membership is something that I say every single week. So it makes sense that somebody would then think that in order to be a Barfly, they need to pay something. But it seemed to be a natural name to call the YouTube memberships when I set it up. I called it the Aquavitae Barflies in YouTube. Bit clumsy in retrospect, but know this. To be a Barfly, you don't need to pay. I'm going to talk to you about how the channel is funded throughout this evening. Mike Molasses is saying Graham Fraser is a treasure. He absolutely is, Mike. And I suggest that that's perhaps potentially you haven't even met the man yet, and he is a treasure as well. Also, a Jeff Whiskey wee dram that's come in from a peer, creator, and contributor. Well-deserved dram on me, Roy. Cheers for all you do. Cheers for all you do too, Jeff. Jeff Whiskey. One of the easiest to watch YouTube channels that's out there. Tongue-in-cheek, funny, slickly well edited. It's one of the ones when I see a Jeff Whiskey video is dropped, just because of how easy content it is compared to my content, I tend to watch it straight away. Jeff, it's great to have your dram, but honestly, it's just great to have your trust and support, my friend. Cheers. So let me tell you a wee story. How odd this all is and how confusing it potentially is as well. Just as we were coming out of COVID, we were getting together as a family with another family, and we're having a kind of dinner table discussion, and they were curious. They knew I was a YouTuber and they wanted to know about it. And a guy was asking me, and he said, how is it that your channel works? You're obviously a whiskey reviewer, so I guess that what's happening is the whiskey companies are sending you whiskey in order for you to appraise and review them and share them online with the people that are watching and things like that. And I said, yeah, that does happen, and it's a thing that's out there, but I don't do that. I actually, when I am offered whiskey, I told him, I tend to say no. The only time that free whiskey arrives or gets behind the bar in the vPub or anything that I do is when it is just anonymously delivered and there's nothing I can do about it at that point. I do have a solution for it in future. It's coming. So I tend to say no, but that is a valid model. It's a valid way to do things, but I don't do that. And he goes, oh, okay, that's interesting. And he's looking at me quizzically saying, well, how do I finance it? How do I pay for all the whiskey? And he said, oh, okay, I understand you. It's YouTube, he said. So obviously YouTube are then going to give you money in order to create content for their platform. I said, well, not really, as YouTube's a free platform. They don't pay me for anything. However, if they run ads alongside my content, they will give me a contribution from those ads. I'll tell you exactly what that share is on the channel. I'll share what the splits are with you tonight. I'll share everything that YouTube takes, what their percentage is. And he said, okay, that's what you're doing then. You're obviously getting money from YouTube. And I said, well, yes, but I choose not to do that. I switch the ad revenue off. I don't monetize my videos, so there are no ads run alongside my content. And therefore, I don't, at least since 2020 I'm speaking about, I don't monetize any YouTube content anymore. So there are no ads and there is no revenue therefore generated from my content. At this point, he's really puzzled. And he says, okay, I know what you do. You are getting money then from your community. I said, exactly. I am paid for and financed through my community. He said, yeah, I get it. He said, so you make content for them, and then through them subscribing and becoming a supporter of yours, they get access to this content. And I said, no, no. There's no paywall. My content is free to everyone. If somebody chooses to step up and participate as an Aquavitae Barfly on YouTube or as a Patreon supporter and Patreon, they do that off their own back. It's completely optional. And while I reserve the right to remind people that those platforms and those functions exist, I don't bully people and I don't put a paywall up in order for them to participate. At this point, he finds it quite incredulous and he finds it amazing that such a thing can exist. And the way he reasons that it can exist is that it's just because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people watching. So it only takes a tiny, tiny fraction of people to step up in order to make a significant difference. At that point, I told him, probably at the time, I didn't even have 20,000 subscribers, right? I told him how small the channel was and how many views the content gets. Then I went on to explain it's whiskey, it's our community, it's what we do, it's the way we share things, and it's the thing that I do every week that people have come to appreciate. And that's why they choose to pay for these things off their own back optionally, even when it means stepping into a different platform like Patreon in order to do it. I think he honestly struggled to get his head around why such a thing would exist. And that's something that I struggle with often, especially when imposter syndrome kicks in. Why would anybody take the step to do that thing? But since 2020, enough of you have done that thing in order for this to be a vocation for me. This is my career. Thank you all. Cheers. So let me explain what a barfly is. Justin Wan is saying that's one of the most intriguing monologues on YouTube ever. And Jimmy Legg is saying it's free to everyone, but sometimes we still have to pay. You do drone on a bit. Time for a dram. Gregor is here, and that's the definition of creating a community, Aquavitae. It's a crowdsourced community. So the friendships in here, Gregor McQueen is a friend of mine that I would never have met. Whiskey afforded me that privilege. It's fantastic to witness. He's also a patron, and he may even be, yes, he's potentially a barfly too. No, he's a moderator. He's actually pitching in and helping. There's lots of different ways to contribute to the channel. Make a damn decision, is saying Aguavite. I have a hard time taking a review seriously when the reviewer has received the bottle from the distillery. I just don't think the reviewer can be objective. That is the mindset of many out there. I've actually run a poll on Instagram. Let's share the results with you just now. And the reason that I put it on Instagram is it's very easy to do a poll on Instagram, but also because I think if I put it out to my Patreon community or the Facebook Aquaviti Barflies, if I put a poll on that page, I think I would get a very slanted towards the Aquaviti culture type response. But on Instagram, I'm going to get something a bit more, I don't know, a bit less, I think, attached to my culture and the culture that exists around this channel. Okay, so I only put the thing on a couple of days ago, and 85 people on Instagram responded to the question where I simply said, does it matter to you that I choose to avoid freebies? I gave people three options. They could either say, yes, independence matters, or they could say, meh, I'm ambivalent, or they could say, not bothered at all, free stuff is great. So if I click view results here, I'm going to be quite surprised at this. I know I am. Let's hold this up and hope that it focuses. If I take my face out of the picture, view results, there we go. Okay, so up at the top here, my goodness, 48% say yes, independence matters. Ambivalence is 16%, and not bothered at all, free stuff is great, it's 35%. It's 35 to 16, so 41, okay, it rounds up to 99. It's just down to roundings. So we're at over half are either ambivalent or not bothered at all. Free stuff is great. Less than half in the Instagram environment are suggesting that independence matters. That is not a surprise to me. So many accounts on social media, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's in TikTok, I don't know how TikTok is funded, honestly, I don't participate in the space, whether it's a blog space, whatever it is, so much of it is funded by or is enabled by free products. It's been happening forever. It's not just in whiskey, it's in tech, it's in cars, it's in clothing, fashion, it's everywhere. I think that I understand the thinking of make a damn decision that people maybe cannot be trusted fully to give a completely objective review unless they have paid for it themselves. But consider this. Some people cannot pay for all of that whiskey themselves. They cannot continually generate content themselves. They have to work on things that are coming in for free. It's different for me. Even when I started in 2017, I had years in whiskey. I had a robust whiskey collection ready to go. I had lots and lots to share in terms of bottles and liquid and knowledge and experience and all of that stuff. Some people are starting off much earlier in their journey. And who would stand in their way of doing that? And if they're going to go from week to week or month to month or whatever it is, putting out content based on trips and visits and experiences and bottles and samples and doing whatever they can in order to learn and gather as much experience with whiskey as they possibly can and share it with the world, there's a value in that. I'll also say this. There are people that have been doing it for so long that the producers, they don't care whether they say something positive, negative, or anywhere in between, because they just want people talking about the product. They just want it to be known that it's out there. Most of the time, they're confident in the product. But I would say, in my experience, the people that I work with, the people that I trust, it doesn't matter to me what their model is. I look at what they're saying. I know them. I have been watching, listening to, or reading them for long enough to know how they feel about the product. It's about building trust and it's about building relationships. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not here to throw shade on anyone else or anyone else's model. For me, I'm a simpleton. I don't think I am robust enough to take a free product, knowingly curry favors or ask for something from somebody and then review it and say that it's not good. I'm already uncomfortable saying that something is not good if it's something I've bought myself. but I've learned to be honest. I've learned to say, okay, that was a mistake. I spent X amount of pounds on this and it's really not that good. I know, in order to simplify and make it as easy as I can, that is the way I need to be. I just need to play it like that because I don't want there being any doubt. I want the discussion of whether or not I'm being objective to just be taken off the table. I want everyone to know that the whiskey I review on this site or the whiskey I review in the recycled reviews is all whiskey I have paid for myself, with some exceptions that we're going to cover tonight. So more drams have come in. Fantastic generosity here tonight. It's incredible. I really appreciate the lack of ads, the content, the community. Cheers, Roy, and happy belated birthday coming in from Luke de Luke. So good. I think it might be the first time that I've given you a welcome here, Luke de Luke. I hope that's not the case, but it may be the case. Thank you very much for your generous dram. My pal Danny Hebington is saying the amount of money spent on crap when you have a family. My Patreon and Barfly contribution is about the only money spent that you get a worthwhile return and great satisfaction from. Danny, Jesus, you'll bring tears, man. What are you doing? That's a wonderful thing for you to write and say. Thank you so much. Graham Young is saying, free whiskey, how about gifts instead of free gifts? Just seems more politically correct. It's a thrill and very gratifying to get a bottle to a friend that they might never see otherwise. Graham Young, I hope you're around for the night because you are a bit of an inspiration to this whole theme tonight, my friend, and I love your sentiment. To Graham Young, to Danny Hebington, and Luke to Luke, thank you. You're all helping me tear through the drams tonight. Need to be careful. Multi-mission saying I'm quite comfortable saying whether or not I feel I'm getting my money's worth. I feel it's vital even to factor that into the equation. Absolutely, Menno. And Very Whiskey Shop is here. Good to see you. He's saying there's a huge difference between something being bad and something that you don't like. Taste is very subjective. You have a community that respects your opinion and you treat that well. That's right. You have to contextualize everything. I think there can be objectively bad things. I've had one or two recently in terms of the context of whiskey. That said, it doesn't mean it's necessarily undrinkable or whatever, but there are bad things, especially when the quality is overcharged for at the same time. Chris Pollack is saying recycled review. What's that? Oh, well, that's quite good, Chris. I might get to that in May. Michael Wood is saying, I tend to doubt the credibility of a review, which I suspect is a promotional gift. It undermines my confidence, so I avoid them. I know, Michael, there's a lot of people that feel the same way. And Simon Ray is saying, with so much whiskey out there, the work you and folk like Ralphie do in giving honest, unfettered opinion is invaluable. You too, Simon. You're also very good at sharing your joys and your pleasurable discoveries. Probably some of your less pleasurable ones too. We all do it together as a community. Thank you. And Alan Smith is saying, your transparency will lead to some questioning your real motives. Some people are always skeptical. Alan, if I've learned anything in life generally, but it's a quickening happening now that I'm on the internet, is that the more information you give people, the more transparent you are, the more questions, the more critique that you open yourself up to. It's just the way of it. It's the way of the internet. I am not speaking to people that are not interested in me or not interested in ever spending time or investing any time in the channel, the content, the vPubs, whatever it is. But I am interested in reaching the people that are just on the periphery. I'm interested in that man that I met in the Bon Accord that night, the man that I spoke to over the dinner table. I'm talking to those people to help everyone understand, for clarity's sake, my position, how the channel's funded, how it's structured, how much I get, how much the platforms take, all of those great things, what I deem free whiskey, and as Graham Young quite rightly pointed out in his contribution there, what is actually free whiskey. Dan Thompson is saying the serendipitous connection between Barflies through this channel is amazing. It's become much more kind of network web-like than I ever imagined it possibly could be. This was like a dream to me that there could be a way to connect people. Back when I saw the Scotch Test Dummies doing the live streams in 2017, 2016, it blew my mind that such a thing could exist. It's a wonderful thing to be able to participate in these days for the people who enjoy that. For so many people out there, they're happy just sitting on their sofa or kicking back and listening to it podcast style. There's space for us all, but for the people that want to step forward and to develop relationships and friendships and things in the community, to learn from the community, to give to the community too, it's fantastic. Whiskey and Wine Trails, Tom is insane. Bringing all these wonderful people together is every bit as valuable as the content and comments. Aquaviti, thank you very much, Tom. A pleasure to have met you in 2023. But Brian Cabalis is saying, looking forward to some honesty scores of empties and the recycled reviews talking about. I'm committed now, haven't I, Brian? Lowlander is saying Aquaviti loves Roselle so much that he paid £80 for a 200ml bottle at auction a few months ago. Lol. Do you know what, Lowlander? I still haven't picked that bottle up yet. It's still sitting at the auction house. I had the shame of walking in to pick it up, right? Whiskey Games is saying, Roy, I work in pharmaceutical field and often offered free gifts from suppliers, but we have a blanket policy of no gifts so that there is no possible conflict of interest. In pharmaceuticals, that's a recent thing. I remember back in the day when I was in sales, I would meet people that were in pharmaceutical sales, and they told me about their model about gifting people in NHS and all over the place. I know it's been squashed now, but it used to be quite, I always considered that a wee bit broken. The Barflies community is a living thing, and we love it. Aquaviti says, Helen. That fantastic, Helen. Of course, you're very much part of it. And George L says, I watch this channel because I trust, respect, and enjoy Aquaviti, and I like whiskey. Let's raise a glass to liking whiskey as I go on to the next topic and open another wee bottle. Cheers. What's a YouTube membership and why no ads? So I call it the Aquaviti Barflies. It was always pretty popular from the beginning, but it was difficult for me to set it up because I'd already been running on a couple of years on Patreon. Patreon is the foundation. Patreon is everything. Patreon keeps the lights on, keeps the whiskey flowing. It keeps me in a career. Patreon is the bedrock of absolutely everything. When I wanted to migrate the channel away from ads, I needed to replace the ad revenue that YouTube was giving me with something else. And I saw that the YouTube memberships is a way of doing that. And once it was working, I then confessed to everyone, as long as you keep supporting me in the Barfly community, the Aquaviti Barfly community is what I call my channel's YouTube memberships, I will not monetize the content. There's no ads going to go out. That means you sign up. You can't do it on a mobile phone that's an Apple iOS mobile phone because of Apple's policies. But if you're on desktop, any desktop, if you're on Android, you'll look under the video and there's a join button. $1.99 of your currency per month gives you access to the loyalty badges and the channel themed emoji and things like that. You become a member of the Aquaviti Barflies and you never ever see any ads. But you never see any ads if you don't take that action either. I always want to operate a policy of giving something first before I ask for anything. Once you sign up, you can choose to sign up for a month, for 2 months, forever, and then you can cancel at any time, and then you can come back on again. It's in, out, opt in and out. It was always the healthy. We had maybe 200, 250 Barflies at any point in time. But the Wook effect that we cannot avoid talking about probably this evening has meant that their generosity has boosted that significantly. And a lot of the people that are taking those memberships, thanks to Wook, are keeping them. So thanks to them also. They're not necessarily waiting on a freebie from Wook or anyone else the next month. They are deciding, do you know what? It feels good being a member of the Barflies. I feel good that I'm contributing something, and I'm going to keep it. There's also another tier in there that's the Patreon-averse, and that's put there specifically for those people who are always reluctant to sign up to another platform. Patreon is a separate thing altogether that we will get to talking about very, very soon. But I put a tier in the YouTube memberships for those people that had asked me specifically about how to support me without signing up to Patreon, and that's why it's there. And I do have a few people that choose to support me through YouTube memberships, that higher tier. But you are a Barfly by paying $1.99 of whatever currency, dollars, euros, or pounds per month. That's what that is. Jimmy Legg has said bought me another dram to say it's almost impossible to believe what you've done. The best people in the world are here. I would have missed them all if not for you. Well, that's awfully nice of you to say, Jimmy, but it took you the investment of time to come here and see why would I spend 2 hours? Is this whiskey content? I mean, tonight it's not really whiskey content, let's be honest. This is an exceptional vPub tonight, but normally we try and focus on whiskey. But you invested your time in it, and it's honestly, Jimmy, it's wonderful to have you here, and it's wonderful to have welcomed you and Angie in Glasgow last year. Okay. Graham Young, right on point. I've got 2 bottles here. One's from Graham. Actually, 90% of the Canadian whiskies that I own are from Graham Young. Honestly speaking, the reason I have a Canadian whiskey shelf in the vPub is mostly funded by one very, very particular Barfly and patron, and that is the wonderful gentleman that is Graham Young. We spent a weekend together in Frankfurt a couple of weeks ago, and it was absolutely fantastic. Graham Young has just dropped this bottle off with me. I nipped over to Peter Lee's restaurant tonight and picked up dinner. Peter Lee wouldn't let me pay for my dinner. So it's not just free whiskey, right? It's free food as well. But I picked this bottle up tonight. I sent Graham Young a wee message to ask for some details. He might have responded to that. I'll have a wee look just now. But this is actually a Canadian single malt whiskey from Okanagan Spirits, and it's called Laird of Fintry single malt whiskey. It's a cask strength. Okanagan Spirits are obviously in the Okanagan Valley, which is British Columbia in Canada. But this is a 750ml bottle of 56% ABV whiskey. Now, this looks like a vatting. No specific cask or anything is mentioned on this one. Bottled 2023, so this is lot 10 on the back. I have never tried an Okanagan Spirits. I never even spent any time thinking about them before. But I've also got a bottle here from my pal and Graham Young's pal as well, our joint pal from Gino Cumeau, who's often in but often listens to and picks it up on the replay. And he dropped off a Canadian whiskey from his neck of the woods in Canada. Now, being a French Canadian, he's brought along a French Canadian whiskey. This is from the Field du Roi distillery, or maybe it's Field du Roi, I don't know. Interestingly, which is, I guess, if that can focus, there we go. So we can say Field du Roi. I think that's how you pronounce that. And I'm going to butcher this, but it's Fort Beauséjour, I think it is. This is a peated single malt whiskey from, obviously, this is Quebec. This is much, much further east than the British Columbian bottle. So I think, given that this is peated, I think we'll open this Okanagan one tonight. What I'm opening in front of you right now is free whiskey, isn't it? It's free whiskey. I didn't pay for this. Now, let me ask you, if I'm going to uncork this and give you my reaction and review this, oh, it's going to give us a nice glug. Wow, look at how dark that is. If I'm going to review this, can I be objective, given that it's a gift from the community? I'm just putting it to you, right? If somebody's gifted me something and I'm going to uncork it and share it with you, especially if I'm live or on air, oh well. Big hits of oak, lots of oak. It's Canadian whiskey, so I'm thinking of maple syrup straight away, but it's very sweet and syrupy. Lots of sweet oak. Very, very potent oak. Sweet, definitely maple syrup, butterscotch syrup. Nuttiness, hazelnuts. You can't fully review a whiskey. You can only give a reaction when you uncork it and do the neck pour thing. You know, it's not even sat in a glass for long enough to breathe yet, and I'm sticking my nose in it. But I'm giving you my initial reaction. That's what the uncorkings will always be. I actually believe that you can get a reasonable idea of a whiskey from the neck pour. You can probably colour in about 60, 70, 18% more of the picture just from the neck pour. And then you can go back to revisit it and see how it opens up and breathes a little bit over time. So I think it's fair to uncork things and share things with people. But if I'm going to review it or decide whether it's good or not, I have to put the responsibility on you to decide whether I'm being objective or not. Because let's face it, I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, I'm being honest about this whiskey. You need to feel it. So I need to be transparent. I need to tell you I paid this for this whiskey, then you know I've bought it myself. Hopefully that settles you a little bit. Or I need to tell you this is a gift from the community. This is gifted whiskey to me for whatever reason the gift is for, because people are just excited to share it, because it's from where they live, which is by far the most common gift I get, is because it's something from where people are from. Or if, as far as I'm aware, I have never been gifted anything from this community with any other agenda other than just, Roy, I like this whiskey, I'd like you to try it, or Roy, this is where I'm from, I'd like you to have this. If I am transparent with you and I tell you that that's the case, surely you can decide whether I'm being honest about that whiskey. If I decide that the whiskey is not good, and Graham Young, who's gifted me this whiskey, is offended, then I hope our friendship would be able to endure or recover from that. But he's not going to be offended. He's going to be like, whatever. Anyway, cheers, everyone. Okanagan Spirits. Much more ABV. I forgot it was 56%. It's cast strength. I've been sipping a 46% whiskey before this. Really full. Almost bourbon-like in terms of its kind of oak communication. It's not quite like bourbon. It's a wee bit more malty. A lot more malty, actually. Quite nice spice, a wee bit of creaminess there. Vanilla. Bags and bags of vanilla. Maybe that's much more from the cask. I'm going to suggest that there's quite a bit of virgin oak at play here. Certainly active first fill bourbon. Not getting much in the way of sherry or anything. Really richly flavored. Really powerful. Really bold. It's basically like a malt equivalent of a bourbon. It's the best way I could describe this. There's a maltiness here. There's a cereal note here. Come across a wee bit nutty, a wee bit grainy. Wood spice, cedarwood, sandalwood, that kind of thing on the finish. Quite a long finish. What a cracking full. I suspect this would make an absolute banger of an old-fashioned. I can almost taste the cherries already. Another dram's come in from another couple of drams, actually. Justin Wan has bought me a dram from Hong Kong. Good to see you, Justin. He's saying tonight not be a whiskey vPub, but it's a community vPub, which is arguably more important. Let's bring that over here so I can see that clearer. Which is arguably more important and valuable. Jimmy Legg is absolutely right. Justin Wan, thank you so much, my friend. Thank you, buddy. That means a lot. And Alistair Gray is saying, been a follower from near the start. Only finally met you at Glasgow Whisky Festival last year. It wasn't a handshake, but a hug from you instead. Little tear and I, not going to lie. Best community there is, created by you, Slancher. Alistair, it was wonderful to meet you too. Recognise at the moment that we met, the reason that a hug was the only thing to do is that we felt like we knew we were kindred spirits already, and we felt like over the years that we've spent virtually together, it was appropriate, and it felt nothing strange about it at all. We were already pals. Cheers, Justin, who I've managed to welcome in Glasgow too, and cheers to Alistair Gray. Justin had to come from Hong Kong. Alistair Gray just toddled down from Speyside. I look forward to seeing you again this year, Alistair, as well, hopefully. And Sugar Kitty's saying, if you want to taste the cherries and you're in the US, get a dram of Calumet 15-year. Oh, wow. Never even heard of it, Sugar Kitty. Is it a bourbon? Calumet 15-year. 15-year-old. 15-year-old in virgin oak, potentially. Okay, so I'm talking about YouTube membership. Why no ads? It's what I choose to do. I'm going to maybe pull up a slide for this one. Let me see. I choose not to have any ads, and I will admit that it was jarring to me one time. I'm watching my channel on a big screen TV at a friend's house. he just wanted to talk about something, and he dropped in, he pulled up the content, and it ran through an ad, and it was a political ad ran before the vPub. And I was shocked. I'm going back to 2019, I'm not sure. And then as time went on, I started to realize the type of ads that were being run alongside my content, and I had no control over that whatsoever. There are no settings inside YouTube that I can switch on or off in order to make sure that my content doesn't get associated with any particular types of products, any particular demographic, or any particular type of political ideals, whatever it may be. So I decided immediately, I need to find a way away. I need to get away from these ads. By that time, I was not in any way reliant on the YouTube ad revenue because it was so small. YouTube ad revenue back then, if I remember well, they used to wait until it hit $100. So I would sometimes go 2 or 3 months before it hit that $100 before they would even make a payout to me. And even when the channel got more popular and things like that, and the ad revenue started to build up, it really was always inconsequential numbers. Not inconsequential. I mean, honestly speaking, you could probably get a bottle or 2 a month out of it. It's not inconsequential. That would be disingenuous for me to say that. But when I realized that the YouTube memberships could be my way out of that, that's when I started to push for that. And in time, it was very, very easy. I worked out through your support as a community. I would never need to bother my backside with ad revenue from YouTube ever again. So it's a very, very personal thing. That's why I chose to go the YouTube membership route. It is fully optional to you. What is not optional is that you are never sat through ads. Whiskey with Molly saying, I hadn't thought of that point, but it's a very good one of unsolicited ad content in association with your content. Absolutely. I think that when you become a creator, you start to think differently about lots of things. You start to reflect on things, and yes, I had no control over the ads that were running alongside it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and show you this slide. And I think it might surprise some of you. And I want you all to be very aware of the gag reflex reaction that you're going to have to the slide that pops up here. When I ask you, or when I answer to you the question, what does YouTube take as a cut? I'm going to use a slide for this just so it can sit on the screen for a little while, and I'll change this background here to make it a wee bit easier to read. Okay, so we've got YouTube revenue, whatever revenue I get from YouTube. So this is the super chats that come in, the memberships that you sign up for as Aquaviti Barflies, and of course, as I'm speaking about at the beginning of the things tonight, the ad revenue. This is what YouTube takes as a cut. So you can reflect on that. The ad revenue is 50-50, or potentially, if I'm lucky, 60-40. The 60% goes to me, and the 40% is retained by YouTube. That's ad revenue. Memberships, 70%, more or less, is retained by me, and 30% is taken by YouTube. Super chats, so the super chats that are coming in tonight, YouTube take 30% of that, and 70% comes to me. Somewhere between 66 and 72% in my own wee personal calculations. But the official figures that you find online suggest it's 70-30 split for those. Now, that means if you buy me a €10 super chat, YouTube is taking €3 and I only get 7. I need people to understand why I'm pragmatic about that. I need people to understand why that is okay in my book. And there's a couple of reasons for it. The first thing I'll say is that if you are a creator and if you use the YouTube software, everything is accessed through a browser, it's software as a service. It is probably the most potent, powerful software I use, maybe with the exception of the Adobe Creative Suite or something. The YouTube software is absolutely... I don't even use it half as much as I should. We need to remember, if it was charged, software as a service, consider the storage, consider that it's the second biggest search engine on the planet, consider its marketing potential, the fact that it is marketing and selling my content for me. I don't really need to do anything apart from just use good due diligence in order putting my content together. YouTube will do the marketing and sorting, and it'll offer it to people for free. It'll store terabytes and terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of my content for free. It does everything. Hammer blow successfully, very, very efficiently, for free. If I had to pay for that software, I dread to think what it would cost me. More than that, if they earn 10 euros from advertising on my content, on my channel, YouTube give me half of that revenue. They just give it to me as a YouTube partner. Yes, you have to have X amount of subs. You have to have the X amount of time watched. You have to have, yet there are things that have come into play in YouTube to strengthen it and to bolster it in time. But I'm well beyond all of that. I'm an established channel now. And if I choose to monetize my content, YouTube will give me half of the ad revenue. It is my own personal choice that I choose not to do that for your watching pleasure, for my comfort. It's just my thing. Not everyone is going to want to do that. And the people that don't do that will be given half of the ad revenue. So when YouTube see the memberships and they see the supers or the super thanks or the super chats that come in every night on the Thursday night vPub, and they take 30%, I have to be pragmatic. Everything exists because of this platform. It has to be a profitable and successful platform. I don't pay YouTube anything, but I think it's important that you know that when you buy me super chats on YouTube Live, super thanks after the event, super stickers, or you pay to be a member of the Aquavitae Barflies through the YouTube subscription, the $1.99 a month thing, YouTube will take 30% of that. I know a lot of you'll think that that's a lot. Jeff Whiskey's saying, I think it's changing soon to a larger cut for YouTube, possibly a fair price for the platform, says Jeff Whiskey. He's also been a bit pragmatic. Interesting that Jeff Whiskey is also a creator. McAllen Fine and Rare saying, consider the economies of scale. YouTube is a money printing machine. Sugar Kitty saying, although I understand the software value isn't that great, most people are using other far better software and it's cheap. It's not the expense you believe, Aquavitae. Disk is cheap too. That's right. So what alternative do I have, Sugar Kitty? YouTube has given me everything. You know what? We're almost kind of prisoners now. That 70-30 split hasn't changed in all the time that I've been using it. So it was 70-30 when I was worth nothing, and it's 70-30 now that I'm worth something. Pete Head is saying he's applauding. Daniel, be good to have you in, Frank, always, buddy. Daniel McAvoy is saying, at the end of the day, YouTube is now one of the largest media companies on the planet, but without their creators, they'd be nothing. That's right. It's not, I wouldn't suggest it's egalitarian, but they are at least looking out for their creators a little bit. They're certainly trying to keep the platform as high quality as it can possibly be. Scott Matheson is saying, I hear what you're saying about it being fair, but I'm still shocked. I know a lot of you will be. Jimmy Legg is saying, what else should I spend my money on? Whiskey. And Whiskey Weekend Drama is saying, now I want to know what the Patreon does, so will Wook join Patreon? Harrow, Wook has been a patron for some time. I knew Wook as a patron. I think I'm right in saying that I knew Wook as a patron before I recognized him on the channel. It might be the other way around. Not sure. Yes, Wook is a patron. You know that Wook's a patron because I'm not telling tales out of school there. I put the credits up at the end. People can see. Herbin is saying if they take 30% from Super Chats, it will be called WookTube in time. And Justin Wan is saying YouTube is way more fair than the Apple App Store from what I gather. I can imagine. I know through building Dramface that all these platforms, these digital platforms, they want a chunk of everything. Hosting, the software, the editing, the comment section, the search functionality, the search engine, anything that you add on to your website to make it better, to make it perform better, to make it work better. Whatever you do, somebody's going to take a chunk. And it's a big chunk, a significant chunk. It's the way that it works. These subscriptions that we pay, I'm talking about things that I pay, as well as things that I receive, a lot of it is going to the platforms that facilitate it. A lot of it. which is another good reason to create a higher tier in Patreon Aquavitae. Jimmy, I'm scared to touch Patreon because it's working, right? And I know that you've been a big somebody that's been asking me from the beginning to put a higher tier in there. But I think Patreon is just fair. And I'm going to talk about Patreon next. I'm going to talk about it. Okay, that's a tasty whiskey. It's bourbon-like, but it's not quite bourbon. There's enough of a kind of creamy, malty feel to things to distinguish it. But it's very, very sweet caramel, apple, toffee, butterscotch. Can't help but thinking about maple syrup too. Obviously, it's Canadian whiskey. My thoughts are going to be drawn there, but it makes sense to me in my mind. But just a cracking and potent whiskey. But let's get another one opened. I'll put a wee drop of that to the side as we move on to the next one. And I'm going to talk about the quiet folk, the folk in the background. Before I uncork this, it's a really beautiful bottle. This is a Romanian single malt whiskey. What business would I have getting a Romanian whiskey, right? But this is from Bogdan Avram, who's not been around the vPub for a wee while, but he made it to Glasgow last year. And he gave me this. And he left a wee note in the tube as well, which was really sweet of him. I hope it's okay to read it out. He says, "Hello, Roy. I hope you and the other Barflies may find this Romanian single malt a bit interesting. This is one of my favourite at the tasting I had last year, and I hope we can meet again and soon," he says. Best wishes, Bogdan Avram. So Bogdan from Romania made it over to Glasgow for the festivities last year, and he left this wee bottle for me, which was really, really amazing. Not only have I not heard of this Carpathian malt whiskey, there are no details in Ingvar Ron's malt whiskey yearbook. But as far as I can gather, this is not only properly made as single malt Scotch whiskey would be made, of course, as Romanian whiskey, but also the head distiller is actually a Scotsman called Alan Anderson. So we've got a Scotsman over there in Romania making the whiskey. So let's get this uncorked. Okay, this cork's going to need a bit more of encouragement. Here we go. Good, confident pop. Love it. And I suspect, given the shape of the bottle, we're going to get a nice glug. Fantastic. So this is a special edition from the Carpathian Distillery. This is one of their cognac cask finishes. It says first cask was a bourbon first fill, natural colour, non-chill filtered, 46% ABV, finishing single cask cognac bottled in 2023. This is bottle number 283 of 714. So if this is the finishing, so bourbon cask that's going to have been disgorged into a cognac cask, so it's going to be more than one cask, probably two casks that's gone into one for a cognac finishing time, and then have bottled it in 2023. Unfortunately, I don't know the age of this whiskey. There's no vintage or anything on it. And the text on the back is absolutely tiny. I had to use the magnifier to read that text. Such are the challenges of middle-aged. Sorry. I'm going to bring up this now and talk about what somebody's already prompted. I'm going to talk about what a patron is. Bogdan, thank you very much for your generous dram. I hope you still pick the vPub up on the replay, my friend. Maybe occasionally you're still in live. Cheers, Bogdan. Oh. This is very modern on the nose. This is a modern style of whiskey. So you've got this big hit of farmyard, kind of super fermenty forward, estery, bright, ripe fruits, a doughiness, a breadiness, almost like a floral hoppiness. Really, you're standing in a fermentation room. You're standing in where they do all the brewing. All the kind of those nutty flavors, those sweet flavors, those fruity flavors, those ripe flavors as you walk through the mash room and you walk into the fermentation room. This is all of those aromas. Very modern style. I suspect that they use significant fermentation times when they make this whiskey. Searching for a wee bit of any kind of cognac influence here. Maybe some of that floral side could be coming from that, maybe. It's a wee bit acidic. A wee bit of tartness there. Green apple skin, sour grape type thing. Cheers, everyone. Cheers, Bogdan. Oh dear. Even Romania is making pretty banging whiskey these days. This is young whiskey. There's some youth here. Immediately, a wee bit of a jagged edge coming through, just a wee bit of an elbow, but a creaminess. It is integrated. It's put together well. There's a nice acidic sharpness to things. Quite a good finish too. The difference here is that Canadian whiskey at 56% tasted like mid-40s, whereas this Carpathian, maybe it's just the profile of the whiskey, at 46%, I think is playing a wee bit more like a higher ABV, but that's not to suggest that it's hot. It's just a wee bit more communicative. It's a wee bit sharper, but there's a lovely creaminess. There's a lovely balance to things. That's a very Moorish whiskey. Very easy to drink, I suggest. Nice drying acidity in the finish. Carpathian. Maybe Ingvar needs to get a wee entry in the Malt Whiskey Yearbook. I was searching for it this evening before I spoke to you about it. So there we have it as we talk about what is Patreon. Graham Fraser is celebrating being a member for 49 months. Graham, heads up to Barfly Daniel Key, so generous. Heads up Barfly Daniel. He is absolutely generous. You might just have preempted me, Graham. Daniel's going to get a mention tonight. Inverary Whiskey Shop gifted 5 Aquavitae memberships. You superstar. Listen, if anybody's interested in a wee kind of nice aside thing, it's not Aquavitae, but Inverary Whiskey Shop on their channel a few weeks back had the Dramface team, Gregor McQuee, Chuck Watkins and myself on there for a session. Absolutely loved it. I made a mess of the vPub after that session that night. It was okay. But I loved hanging out with them. Kat and Mike. Is it Mike? I feel like it's Mike. Sorry if I've forgotten your name. I feel like it's Kat and Mike. Inverary Whiskey Shop, they're a YouTube channel as well as an online retailer and a bricks and mortar independent retailer. And Dale Vestervelt is saying upgraded membership to the Patreon Averse. Dale, we're just about to talk about that right now. We're just about to talk about Patreon Averse and talk about YouTube and how the two fit together. Pedro is saying he's a member for 13 months, saying good evening Aquavitae and Barflies. Pedro all the way from Brazil. Dale, thank you so much. Graham Fraser, thank you. Inverary Whiskey Shop and Pedro, thank you very much. Inverary Whiskey Shop, maybe I have got the name right. I'm getting a wee cheers Glencairn there. Good. Patreon is everything. Patreon is what started the funding for the channel back in early 2018. I'd only been going for a year and I decided to see how it, but I didn't want to commit it to anything. Certainly didn't want to ask for any money or suggest there was a way for people to pay me money until I knew I loved this YouTube thing and I could make something out of it. So I started in early 2017. The vPubs kicked off in late 2017. And then early 2018, I stuck my toe in the water and opened up a Patreon account, told people about it. The next morning, 19 members had signed up. 19 members overnight. Absolutely amazing. Over the course of that year, 2018, I started to get excited because I could see a future where I could invite myself into the whiskey space if that level of support continued. 2019, I sat down with my wife and come up with this plan about how I could wean myself off my corporate job, which I loved, by the way, and then build this kind of whiskey thing in the background and do the two in parallel. She was supportive. She liked the idea. She saw the flexibility in it. She saw how much I loved this. Fast forward to 2020, and the decision was not any longer mine. My job changed immediately overnight. After working for the company for 20 years, I went self-employed and they bought every hour I had. It was fantastic. That was in 2018, 2019. And then in 2020, you know what happened in 2020. Everything I did for the organization was no longer needed, and they never renewed my contract. That was at the end of April in 2020. I sat down with my boss of 21 years at this time, and he was obviously had to have a pragmatic and difficult discussion with me. And he saw that I wasn't afraid, and he understood immediately and recognized I was going to try and attempt this whiskey thing. And that's what I did. And I did it, and I was able to do it with confidence because of Patreon support. I had built up enough Patreon support. Sure, it was a cliff drop in terms of earnings, but I had a foundation there. I had something I was willing to build. So I went from 2 vPubs a month to 2 vPubs a week in 2020. And those twice weekly vPubs ran throughout the summer of COVID and all the lockdowns and everything in 2020. And then eventually when I came back from that summer break, the vPub was a weekly thing. Patreon became my boss. Patreon became my employer. Patreon became my earnings revenue stream. And it's been like that ever since. The YouTube thing is building. The memberships are building. The super chats are building. All of that is great. But you need to consider that like a garnish. I mean, it's getting a heavier garnish, don't get me wrong. Patreon is the foundation for everything. But there's a difficulty with Patreon. The big difficulty is that you need to take people out of the YouTube environment to go and log into Patreon and set up an account in a completely different space, find me and support me in there. That's a big ask for people. But from day one, it's been a big ask, and yet they do it. They do it. Now, I'll be honest with you, and I need to speak very, very frankly. In the last year, Patreon has plateaued. Where Patreon was growing and growing and growing, and I was excited to see that not only could I catch up maybe one day to what I used to earn in my corporate job, but I could potentially break through that ceiling, and I had no boss to answer for in order to take time away for whiskey trips and all these other things. I had no boss to sit down every year and negotiate my new salary. I could literally just work to grow my own fate. What's happened to make that plateau? Well, it's the same that all the YouTube channels are starting to see their subscriber count plateau as well. Now, new channels still come on and grow very, very fast when it's very, very good quality and good content. Of course it does. But generally, all the YouTube creators that have been out there for a long time are seeing that subscriber thing grow very, very slowly these days. Very slowly. Why is that? Well, back in 2017, 2018, 2019, it was a surprise to a lot of whiskey people that there was whiskey content on YouTube. They didn't realize that WhiskeyTube and all its community and all its fabulous creators was a thing. So it was growing very, very fast, thanks to really dynamic channels like the Whiskey Tribe and the Whiskey Vault, even faster, thanks to established creators that have been around forever, like Ralphie. They grew the platform to be what it is today. It's slowed down now. It is no longer a surprise that there's whiskey content on YouTube. So it makes sense that the community has started to reach its maximum. And in order for the YouTube community to grow bigger than that, we need to make the whiskey audience, the whiskey community, grow. We need to evangelize about how good whiskey is in order to grow our own individual communities from here on in. I'm not suggesting that we're at saturation point, but we're getting closer to that. I hope that makes a wee bit of sense. In turn, that means the support has started to saturate too. So where I saw this kind of trajectory climbing like that, I've had to reconnect or rethink things again as the trajectory has started to plateau a little bit. But know this, as I've said, this is the third time I'm saying it tonight, the lights are on, the whiskey is flowing, I am functioning, my career, my vocation is based in Patreon. The support I get from everyone, whether it's handshakes, hugs, comments, likes, watches, whether it's people buying me a super chat, a Barfly membership on YouTube, or especially those folk that step forward, however much or however little they donate inside Patreon, they are the reason I am here. Thanks to you all. And of course, You want to know how much Patreon take as well. They want their pound of fleshes too. Lolander is saying, don't give away too much info about your income. Someone from HMRC could be watching the stream. Lolander, I'm very proud that I've returned a tax return now for the last 3 years and had to pay tax. I feel like I'm a functioning member of society, that I've not only found a career in whiskey, invited myself in and made a career, but I now pay tax. I'm not worried about HMRC in the slightest. Justin Wan is saying, whoops, it jumps. Let's not forget Liquorhound, who's been around forever as well. Absolutely fantastic guy. Had one of the best whiskey nights of my life, sitting down drinking with Chris Liquorhound one evening in northern Texas. Amazing. Whiskey Weekend Drama is saying it's more like partners. We as patrons and YouTube subscribers, we're not your boss. Well, if you are my boss, you're the best boss I've ever had. Alan Smith is saying maybe you need to arrange a boxing match to grow further. Nah, don't fancy myself for doing that. Not these days, Alan. Mark Lambert is saying, Pedro, my brother, I must thank you again for introducing me to the great whiskey community. This is speaking to Pedro Menezes and here in Brazil. And thanks, Aquavite Roy, for the platform that had me meet Pedro. Fantastic. Mark Lambert and Pedro Menezes meeting in Brazil through the channel, through YouTube. Fantastic, and it's happening everywhere. Ralphie can't get enough credit for bringing people to whiskey. He's the ultimate evangelist. He would be offended that I called him an evangelist, honestly speaking, but he genuinely is. Major Nut is saying, okay, Aquavite and all, off to bed and catch the rest on replay. Major Nut, thank you very much for joining tonight. Thank you for buying me a wee dram as well, and I hope you catch the rest up on replay. Lolander is saying, Aquavite, V Ralphie, that is PPV content, gold waiting to happen. I don't think it'll ever happen. I think we're very comfortable in each other's space, Ralphie and I. Dorpass Whiskey is saying, you've saved a lot of us with 2 live streams a week in 2020. Recently doubled my Patreon contribution. We need you doing this as a full-time job. Tim Dorpass Whiskey, thank you very much for your kindness. Thank you for your generosity. And you, my friend, Dorpass Whiskey, have been here from what feels like the absolute beginning. Cheers, Tim. That's a cracking wee whiskey, that Romanian whiskey. Jimmy Legacy, a function member of society, lol. Aquavite, you may want to shoot a little higher. Okay, fantastic. Klitz is in the saying, glad you mentioned that little contributions on Patreon matter as well. I've had quite a bad conscience for setting a monthly limit due to my financial constraints and my parental leave. Klitz, let's talk about that right now. Okay, what does Patreon take as a cut? Let me tell you how Patreon is structured first and why I do it in a bizarrely confusing and sometimes frustrating way. Most people on Patreon have a monthly contribution. And much like the Barfly subscriptions on YouTube, there's just a monthly amount comes off your account. Bang, bang, bang. You pay the same amount every month. And you know exactly what you're going to pay. And it doesn't matter whether I turn up and do nothing or I turn up and do 4, 5, 6 vPubs a month plus a recycled review or something like that. You pay the same amount. That's how most people set it up. It is not how I set up Patreon. I set up Patreon so that you pay for the content I create per creation. That means that if you sign up to Patreon and you decide to give me $2.50 per creation, every vPub I do, you'll be charged $2.50. So if I do 4 in a month, you end up paying $10 in Patreon. However, you can do what Klitz has done. You can cap it to say, I only want to pay for 1 vPub a month, or 2 maximum, or 3. Maybe you want to encourage me to make more content and do more vPubs, so you'll say, no, I'll pay you for every vPub, but I'm paying you the minimum amount. Maybe you'll want to sign up and say, I want to just pay Roy $10 a month. So you'll pay an evangelist tier, the top tier, the $10 tier, but you'll cap it to 1 donation a month. All of that is up for you to do. So here is my Patreon here. The Patreon revenue is the ambassadors is the entry-level tier, $2.50 per creation, disciples $5 per creation, evangelists $10 per creation. And as I say, you can customize what your donation is to $1 per creation, $8 per creation. You can change it to $100 per creation if you want. There's a way to customize that yourself. You can make that decision and do it. And you can cap it to be 1 video, 2, 3, 4, whatever you want to do. So you know exactly how much every month is coming off. That's the way I've set it up. Why? Because when I go for a summer break or a winter break or anywhere in between, I want there to be nothing on my shoulders at all. I want there to be no anxiety that anyone is being charged for me not producing content. I only want to take money from my patrons when I'm putting content out there. So if I don't put out content in August, let's say, because I take the summer break, you don't get charged. You only get charged when I put content out in a month. That's the way I've chosen to work it. That is Patreon. That is the platform that finances me. I have got, like I say, it's plateaued now, but I'm in the realms of around 450 patrons. You know this because you see the credits roll at the end of every vPub every week. That is how I exist today. Patreon is everything. I think it's too much to say everything. Patreon is the foundation. There's more to say about Patreon, but Thomas Dram is saying a wee dram to you and to YouTube. And he's buying me in Danish kroner as well. Fantastic to have you in, Thomas. Thank you very much for your generosity. I'll polish off this dram as I raise a glass to you over there in Denmark. Cheers. And a wee like for you too as well, my friend. Okay. Carpathian, fantastic. I think so far, if I was to pour another dram after the vPub, if I'm kind of winding down later, I think it might be that wee Carpathian so far. Let's look at this is another one I had tonight. Another wee gift that I got from my pal Stefan Novak over in Germany. He purchased look how much I've been enjoying this, Stefan, right? I just got this from Stefan last week, a 1996, a vintage label, Carden Moore. Please focus so people can see. 2012 bottled. Ben Nevis 1996. A lot of you might know that Ben Nevis were up to all sorts of crazy things back in 1996, and it's become a bit of a fan favorite vintage for Ben Nevis. He bought me this one. It's one of the most funky, sour, oddball, weirdo Ben Nevis whiskies I've ever tasted. Stefan, I hope that when you're over in Glasgow, I'm mindful enough to let you try. Maybe you know what's in this bottle. But I'm going to reach for a bottle that was gifted to me from a guy who's fairly recent to the community, or let's say fairly recent from a kind of interactive, or so we might recognize his name, a vocal perspective. So many people are just quietly watching in the background. And a fella who's now located in Glasgow, originally from, I think is he from Hong Kong? I don't want to say, but he's now located in Glasgow for now. And he's very, very generous. He's generous with these whiskies at the Glasgow Whisky Club. He's generous with these whiskies wherever you bump into him. He's always seems to be carrying something to share, and he's just super enthusiastic and excited about whiskey. And he purchased this and gifted it to me. This is an Edredar straight from the cask, one of their wee 35 cl bottle. No, it's actually a 50 cl bottle, sorry. Let's hold this up. This is actually from a sherry butt. Come on, focus, please, camera. You can see. Just caught my face. There you go. A 10-year-old, 58.9% ABV, and look at the colour of that. It is literally the colour of Guinness. This is black as Coca-Cola. Bogdan is here. Love being part of the wonderful community. Bogdan, I've just opened your Carpathian, my friend. I hope you're here to catch it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Clean glass for the straight from the cask from Edredar. Oh, there's a good glug. Missed it. Look at the colour of that. A bright, dark, burgundy red tinge when it's in the glass. I don't know how much the camera's picking that up, but it's super, super dark. 58.9% ABV. Sherry butt maturation. 25th of November 2011. Bottled 2022. In March 2022. 917 bottles. I'm going to suggest to you it's full maturation in that sherry butt as well. You know, sometimes when things are from a sherry butt, they don't always display all the all the typical flavors and notes and everything that you get from a sherry butt, but this is buff. So potent, so cinnamon, crystallized sugars, brown sugars, demerara sugars, wine. I'll just say it's sherry. It smells like sherry to me. It specifically smells a lot like sweet dark sherries, like really rich Oloroso, maybe even a wee bit sweet PX. Quite sweet sherry, honestly. PX more syrupy, dry, but very sweet. Fudge, toffee fudge. I'm getting obviously lots of sweet notes coming here. You can imagine the nose on this one. Not a lot of spice yet. Maybe a wee bit of kind of cinnamon and nutmeg and things, but sweet. Cheers, everyone. Look at the colour of this. Oh, wow. Cedrador. I was kind of strapped in and I was embracing myself a wee bit for a big sherry punch in the face. A big dollop of Edredar funk as well, but it's actually really quite gentle. Okay, gentle is not the word to use for this whiskey, but it's more gentle than I expected it to be. That's the way to talk about it. Cold coffee on the palate, mocha, coffee grinds. Dry, bitter, dark chocolate. Boozy cherries. Sweet cherries. It's quite dry, and I wonder if it could be European oak. Most likely going to be American oak. A chance of it being European oak. It's a wee bit drying. The spices there on the finish, lots of drying spice, kind of wood spices too, the cedarwood, sandalwood thing, cinnamon, nutmeg. This is not my style of whiskey, but this is delicious. I know exactly the folk that I would pour this for, and they would just be purring. Anyway, let's get back onto it. So Patreon, what does Patreon take as a cut? Let's say that you decide to support me as an evangelist and you pay $10 a month on Patreon or whatever. Patreon take between 9 and 12%, depending, I think, from what I can gather, when you signed up. As a creator, I signed up in early 2018, so I'm on the original plan, so I pay the minimum share. So if you give me $10, 90 cents of my $10 goes to Patreon. Now, forget about all the nonsense that happens that they only pay it into a PayPal account. They pay it in dollars regardless of the currency they take it from you in, regardless of the taxes that they take off and all of that stuff. When they whatever money is left, they only take 9% from me, and they give me the rest. And then there are lots of kind of fees and things because I have to get it from the Patreon account into a PayPal account, and then from a PayPal account into an account I can actually use, my own account. There's lots of transactions, exchange rates and things and fees that's involved in that, but it is by far the most efficient way to support the channel. And I'm not suggesting that so that you can all run out and become patrons rather than Barflies or whatever is most comfortable for you. I say it because it's transparency. That's the truth. All the other creators that are out there know that this is the case. All the other creators out there go through the same hoops that I do in order to get money. That is how much Patreon takes. So I am quiet about Patreon. I talk about Barflies almost every week on the vPub. I do, hopefully, I'm mindful enough to mention Patreon every week on the vPub, but often I don't. And I know I always want the content to be optional. I want the content to be about people just enjoying themselves and having a nice time. And when it builds to a point that they feel like it's something that they want to support, they want to help it endure, that they would miss if it disappeared, or they're watching it more than they're watching their Netflix, or they're listening to their Spotify, or whatever other subscriptions they are, maybe they decide, no, I like this, I'm going to support it for a while, and they step up. But I need to raise a glass to all my patrons, but especially the ones that have supported me literally from day one, and they are still here. Whatever I'm doing for you guys to still be here, it's so self-indulgent tonight, and I apologize for that. It's the only way to do it. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you so much. You need to know that you have built this. I'm here in front of you tonight as I was in 2017 because of the steps that you took. Thank you. And thank you to my patron, Daniel Key, for this delicious wee bottle of Edredauer. Duder Court is saying, Aquavite, did you at least remember to ask everyone to like the video tonight? No, I didn't. No, I did not. According to me on YouTube, I've got 23 likes. That is a mistake. I know YouTube isn't really good for keeping it up. If I refresh the screen or something, maybe I'll get an update on that. No, it's 193. Let's see if we can get those likes up a little bit. However, if you don't want to like tonight's video, I understand that. Tonight is not a typical vPub. It's very channel focused. It's very self-indulgent, very self-reflecting. If I do a session like this, it's only going to be once in a blue moon, believe me. It's not a typical vPub. So it's okay for you not to leave a like, and people that are kind of trying on the vPub to see how it fits, they might dodge this one, and that would make a lot of sense. Alistair Gray is saying cheers, and the Ginger Genius is saying it's kind of sad that you feel you have to explain everything. So much so, I've just promoted myself to a disciple. Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, the more transparent you are, the more you open yourself up to critique and questioning and all the rest of it. But also, the more transparent you are, the more people are comfortable with it in order to take steps like you just have, Ginger Genius. So thank you. Mikey is saying, it's not self-indulgent Aquavita, it's hugely open and transparent for us, which is great. Integrity forward. Mikey, hey, you've been around since day one, my friend. Can't wait till the next time we get to raise a glass together. To Danny Hebbington is saying cheers. Jimmy Jazz is also saying cheers. Good to have you in, Jimmy. Good to have you, Danny. You're welcome, Roy, says Hellas Wood. We're not going anywhere as long as you're here. Fantastic. So reassuring. Whiskey Wine Trails, Tom is saying fantastic, and a grain of malt. So these are all patrons of mine just chiming in and saying and reassuring. It's fabulous. It really, really is. Understand it's always, always, always going to be optional. If you are happy and your content just kind of sitting there quietly in the background watching and enjoying, you are welcome here. Not everyone is going to be of the mind, the mood, the moment, or the means to step up and support as a Barfly or a patron or whatever it may be. But you are able to leave a wee comment, leave a wee like, subscribe. I hope you're already subscribed, of course. You don't find this content unless you're a subscriber. That's enough. Make a Dram Decision is saying transparency is good, Aquavite, and Stephen Wilson is saying this is a vPub loving. Let's rejoice. I like it, Stephen. Jimmy Legg is saying it took a lot of convincing for me to be a patron. Finally, it was your haircut that put you over the top. Well, we know how comfortable Jimmy Legg is with telling fibs, but that's a truth right there. It was the haircut that won him over. Jesus, Jimmy. Black Fen is saying, enjoying the content tonight. To be honest, I mostly just hang out here for the chat. Conrad, you're a pal too. You and I are going to meet this year, and that'll be the first time ever, won't it? Be nice for us to get together and have a wee chat. Fantastic. Bogdan Avram bought me a dram as well. Did I remember to? He said, love being part of the wonderful community. Hopefully I did. A Romanian currency dram as well. Bogdan, thank you so much for your dram. Cheers. So there we have it. That's Patreon. Patreon is a wee bit frustrating. The user interface is a bit annoying. Lack of flexibility, the inability to pay directly into my bank account, all of these things. But they remain the biggest platform. If I was to move into another platform in order to support me, it would have to be very considered and very, very careful and very clearly communicated. But for now, there's no need to do that. Patreon is functioning pretty well. Long may that continue. They do make me a wee bit nervous at times. Chris Pollock is for me, it was a sample of Cragganmore special releases 2022. And Bud Jenkins is saying, one thing that has not been said is that you're providing real value to us patrons. Every penny I put into supporting you is a bargain to me. Bud Jenkins, you superstar. Thank you very, very much. I do hope that somebody else gets value out of it. The value can be measured in lots of different ways, just a hangout thing, information exchange, education, recommendations for whiskey purchases, saving money, all of that kind of thing. More than anything, though, it's just the pure passion of whiskey, right? Des is saying, I'm a patron because I believe in this community and I support the Oswas. Perfect. Thank you so much, Des. Our Patreon, I should mention that, the Patreon of Ralphie, the Patreon of Jacovite, pay for the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. Every button, every penny, everything that makes that exist. It's rude. We didn't ask you first, but we are funding it. Lowlander is saying, open a Bitcoin wallet. Blackfin is saying, hopefully, yes, we'll finally meet this year. And Ian Bruce is saying, have you ever mapped which countries the Barflies tune in from? No, but YouTube maps it for me. But it tends to do it in a kind of gradient. You know, the darker countries are the most popular. But what I've worked out is that Barflies are literally everywhere. Ian, we are legion. We are everywhere, and it's wonderful. We don't care where you are. You're welcome here. Cheers, Ian. Cheers, everyone. This is a very tasty whiskey. There's only one more whiskey I'm going to open tonight. I've got daddy duties to do tomorrow, so I won't get a chance to open this, for example. I asked the guy who gifted me this for some details, but it was a wee bit late. It's probably come through in my phone since then. I'll catch it later. Oh my goodness. It's WhatsApp whack-a-mole again. This is from my pal, Menno Griet. This is Belgian whiskey. This is for, oh, come on, focus, please, focus, please. It's from De Molenberg Distillery. I know you won't see that. I can't work out if it's Het Anchor, if it's the same. It's very, very similar to the Good and Carolus bottle, right? It's just a smaller version of it from Het Anchor. I think it may be the same distillery or the same company. But this is an annual anniversary release from them. This is a 2022 release, which I believe is using cognac casks as well. And it's a bit of a coincidence that the Carpathian was the same. Would love to open that tonight, maybe for another night. I've already shared the French-Canadian bottle with you, but I am keen to open this, and I promised my pal that I would open this on my birthday, but we went at a flight of Springbank cage bottles with such vigor on my birthday, with such big glasses, the Spiegelau snifters, the big glasses, that we finished our night before we got to the last couple of bottles. So it meant that this bottle never got cracked, as promised, on my birthday. But instead, I get to raise this bottle, crack it, and enjoy a dram with all of you tonight to celebrate this whiskey, this community, and everything that we've built together, and also celebrate not just this guy, but this family out there in Paisley. This is a bottle that was gifted to me. This is free whiskey. Free whiskey. This is a Springbank cage bottle, but it's actually a bottle of Longrow, 48.5% ABV. That's cask strength, 16 years old, gifted to me from Peter Lee for my birthday. There are lots of ways to support this channel. You can be a Barfly. You can be a willing contributor. You can help other people. You can like, you can subscribe, you can comment, you can step forward as a patron. You can just get involved and support and help out everyone else. Peter Lee exemplifies that philosophy. Like, it's difficult to find a comparator. Peter and Denise Lee, the two of them together. Wait till you hear this glug. So I went over to Peter's restaurant tonight to pick up that bottle that Graham Young had left for me. And Peter Lee took an order for our evening dinner tonight, because he runs a Chinese restaurant too, and then refused to take payment for it. I can't force somebody to take money from me. He said, no, enjoy your dinner. You take this. So I can be creative on ways that I'll pay Peter back. However, it's easy for me to pay back bottles of whiskey for gifts and even free food. What I will never, ever be able to objectively measure, review, analyze, or pay back is the community, generosity, the willingness to step forward and see each other as people before anything else that has existed in this community from the beginning until today. The reason I can step forward with you and have this really self-indulgent vPubs from start to finish and be as open, as transparent as this and tell you everything is because of the trust that we've built up over the years, because of the community, because of how robust it is, and because of how much we value it. And it's because of Peter. Sorry, it's because of people like Peter Lee and all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Wow. Okay, sometimes I've got peat blight, but no, not in this. 16 years old, still plenty of peat here. Cheers. Good, my goodness. It's like a malt whiskey depth charge. So oily, so thick, so viscous. So spring banky, so funky, so smoky, so peaty, barbecue, salted. I'm getting kind of a sweet and salt meats thing going on. It's so savory. If some people wanted me to demonstrate density and intensity in a malt whiskey, I might be tempted to reach for something like this. My goodness. Peter Lee is saying, sadly, I'm not your patron and I'm not committed enough, but I hope I have given you my support through other channels. It's exactly my point, big guy. Don't you fret. Don't you fret. Denise and I love you dearly. I love you too. Tom, a pal from Arizona. Simply put, it's the people. Thank you for bringing us together. Jolly Rover is saying, Roy, I know you're a humble man. However, for my part, I just have to say you have made my life so much better since I found you in this wonderful community in 2020. Thanks for your continuous creativity and positivity. Cheers. You've never made me greet yet in a vPub. It's not going to happen tonight. I'll give that a wee light, Jolly Rover. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tom Whiskey and Wine Trails, and thank you, Peter Lee. And look what happens. One of the reasons that I chose this topic now is because of an increased chatter that had happened because of the generosity of one particular barfly in the background. And that is Wook. Whoever Wook is, we don't know. And there was some criticism and some kind of suggestion that maybe Wook was an attention seeker. Wook is stepping forward and fortifying our community and asking for nothing in return. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they live. We don't know what their motives are. All that we can hope is that they are working well within their own personal means and they are finding some value in our community the way that we all have. They are fortifying me. They are fortifying you. They are gifting you Barfly memberships almost every week. And he's done it again tonight. 50 Barfly memberships. That's the equivalent of almost €100 donation in itself. And then a ridiculously generous €300 generous donation too. This is a recent thing. I imagine that Wook might not be around forever. But while they are here, know that I do not distinguish between somebody who is, I don't distinguish based on location, geographical location, food preferences, whiskey preferences, voting, religion, and I do not discriminate on wealth either. Everyone is welcome here. If you introduce money into something, it usually spoils things. Something that was always enjoyed for free or nobody cared or thought about the money, as soon as they are forced to contribute or think or anything, or as soon as they realize that money is part of it, it usually spoils things. Listen, I've made this my job, and therefore money has to be part of it. I'll be as transparent as I possibly can, as long as you continue to be as wonderful as you all are. Never, ever, please pick on anyone because of who they are and what they choose to do in our community. It is far too precious for that. Jimmy Legg, thank you very much. Fantastic. Wook better not be my wife. If Wook is Angie, that would be a wonderful plot twist, wouldn't it? Cheers, Wook. Thank you for everything. Cheers, Jimmy Legg. Thank you. Nick Keane, my pal in New Zealand, again, one of the guys that's been there forever, been there from the very beginning, celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 41 months. In theory, Wook is Lynn, my wife, keeping Roy happy. Wow, that would be a plot twist. And as if to hammer home, another super, super generous. Tonight has probably been the most generous that you've all been. And it's not the intention. The intention was to talk about what this thing actually is, what it all means. But once more, Wook, thank you. You're welcome here. Cheers. I will not discriminate between a $2 donation, a $2 patron, and they are whatever the opposite end of the scale will ever be. You're welcome here, and I'll recognize you all as long as I possibly can. Okay, now I finish on what do I get for free? Because let me tell you, in the interests of transparency, which is the theme about of all of tonight, what I enjoy for free. I may tell you that I don't accept free whiskey, but I've demonstrated tonight that all of the whiskey I've drank tonight is free. I didn't pay for any of it. Peter Lee's birthday gift, Bogdan's Romanian gift, Graham Young's and Gino Camo's Canadian gifts, Menno's Belgian gift, Graham Fraser's generous gift. What have I missed out? I feel like Stefan Novak's Ben Nevis. These are all people who have just walked up and wanted to share with me. I get it. It's the exact same feeling I get wanting to share with somebody else. All of these whiskies are free. It's on you whether you decide I'm being objective if I ever choose to review those whiskies and what I'm saying about them. The context will always be provided where I got those whiskies from. But they are free. Sometimes, like the Kuboken 12 Andean Oak, like Arran 10 when it rebranded back in 2019 or whatever it was. Much more recently, a Nicknean appeared at the door. All of these things appear occasionally just in a box because some agency somewhere or some producer somewhere has my address and they'll just randomly send a bottle out because they want to get the word out. It's the way it just happens. If it's ever happened on the channel in the past, I've held it up and I've told you where it's came from in order to put the onus on your shoulders to decide whether I'm going to be objective about it. But in the future, what I'm actually doing, because it's already started, if a bottle turns up on my doorstep for free, I'm going to hand it off to someone else. Maybe one or two I might choose to keep for some other reason. I mean, I'm not suggesting this is an absolute policy, but what I've done with the anonymous bottles that's turned up recently is I've got in touch with a dram-face writer, somebody that is not involved in receiving free whiskey from anyone, somebody that is not involved in the transaction, and I've passed it off to them. Even at that point, if they want to write a review for it, It's up to them. If they want to just drink it or pass it on to somebody else, that's up to them too. There are no strings attached to anything. That's what I'm going to do with the free whiskey that turns up, just because I find it easier to manage. Samples, exact same scenario. Although samples I'll sometimes be curious about. Recently I got sent some new make from North Point Distillery away up in the north of Scotland. Fascinated about that. It's not a review, it's just for my own knowledge and my own experience and things, to build my relevance, I guess, in front of you. It's all about context and it's all about the scenario. When it comes to free merchandise or sundries, it's just not an issue. I don't get free merch, I don't get free glassware, I don't get free t-shirt, nothing like that comes my way. I don't get that type of free stuff. When I do get it, it's from the community. It's channel relevant, it's community relevant too. However, I need to be honest on a couple of things that I do get and I do enjoy. Hospitality, access, and openness. I need that to be free. From the producers that I'm interested in connecting with, the producers that are meaningful to me and my community, I want them to be open to me. I want them to welcome me. I want them to see that I'm a relevant voice, that I'm contributing positively to whiskey. And when I leave this scene for whatever reason in the future, somebody can look back on the legacy that I've left behind and I have not taken from whiskey or its community or anything that it provides. I have left a positive net profit for whiskey to enjoy in the future. That I've been a positive force in whiskey. So all I ask for them in return is that they are open to me, that they give me some respect, give me some time, and do what they can in order to help me access all of the stuff that's interesting and valuable to you. Most of the time when that happens, it is free. I don't pay for it. I don't pay for the tour. I don't pay for the hospitality, and I don't pay for the drams that they welcome me with on site. That is free. When it comes to free stuff, there is nothing more that I'm aware that I need to declare to you. That's it. No controversy, no surprises. That's it. If anyone thinks that I had some affiliate link set up, that I was getting paid a commission for selling whiskey, that I had some partnership or sponsorship or stipend or retainer or anything in place with anyone else, you are not only wrong now, you've always been wrong. It's never, ever been a thing. I don't even know of a mechanism being in place to provide such a thing. There are affiliate links and things like that, but I guarantee you, if you clicked on that in an Aquavitae context, you would recognize it. I do withhold the right to provide that in Dramface in the future, but as of yet, we've never had to do that. It doesn't exist. The only other thing that exists are the occasional once a year so far, I don't know what it'll be in the future, Aquavitae community bottlings that I get paid a commission on. But you know that at the time. That's it. That is everything. I have literally shared everything with you. Drinks Whiskey is saying, just waiting for Wook to be revealed as a new celebrity whiskey fronted by Gary Barlow, but in all seriousness, generous and deserved. Hey, John, Drinks, it's not John, Drinks Whiskey, I know you're a Scotsman, but you're based in London. We've met ever so briefly outside the Bonaccord. I'd like to spend a wee bit more time with you. I'd like to get to know who you are and what you're all about, my friend. Maybe that can happen one day. Thank you. Whiskey 101 Nick is saying, attention seeking. We don't need to put labels on everything. You give what you can. For some, that's money or time or love or just kind words. We contribute as we can. Just celebrate it. That's exactly everything. That's the essence of it all, Nick. Thank you so much. Jimmy Legg is saying, you know, Pink likes whiskey. Aquavitae, she may like 54-year-old Scots. Well, I like pink. That could work. Andrew Butler is saying, have you ever had a chance to try the Japanese samples yet? Andrew, you know what, my friend? I have not. I went through my samples recently and just, I'll be honest with you, I'm drowning in samples. One of the easiest things to say to the industry when they offer to send samples is, no, I'm not going to be able to get to them. And I try to be on a one-on-one type scenario, polite when I'd say, no, there's no need for a sample. If you're excited about something, tell me about it. If there's no other way for me to get it, find a sample. But I'm trying to cut down because we can just drink a wee bit too much. That said, that is not the context that you're asking me in. You sent me a wonderful package, Andrew Butler, and I've still not got there yet. There are blind tastings in my cupboard there from Doc, from loads of people that I've always decided I'll do that in a lock-in or something. I've just not got around to yet. Apologies, my friend. I know the set you're talking about. Well, Andrew's saying, you mean to say that Diageo has never sent you a pair of Johnny Walker Y-fronts in the post? Oh, do you know what, Lolander? I might have accepted that if they did. I can fart in them. Ian Bruce is saying, Aquavita on bin days, the workers get a free nice aroma of residual whiskey. I did have one of my binmen look at me very, very strangely one time. It might have been to do with the fact I asked to take a video of him when he was emptying the bin. Rob Halford is saying, hey, Peter Lee, good to see your name so much tonight. Thoroughly deserved. We can start to nominate members of the Aquavita Cabinet, Chancellor of the Mule Network. Peter Lee is one of the best VIPs. Rob Halford, you're one of the best background technicians. Good to see you in, buddy. And Duder Court, spot my wee dram to say, on the topic of how you make money and your mention of merch, I would love a chance to buy some Aquavita merch if you can be bothered to make some. I can be bothered to make it. That's the easy part. Shipping it is a pain. Duder Court, you're in the UK, so it would be easy to get it to you. Anywhere outside of the UK, merch has become so difficult. Jeff Tawuk, we all support you in our own means. Fantastic. Great sentiment, Jeff Whiskey. Buddy, I just love having you here. Send some Roy Cloudy beers instead of whiskey samples. You'll get to them sooner. Hey, now you're betraying things. Hey, Jimmy Leg, now you're betraying things. I am a sucker for a cloudy, hazy beer. Cheers, Jimmy Leg. Cheers, Duder Court. And cheers, Jeff. I know. I just have to pour a wee bit more of this. Okay, that is it. I think I have covered everything. As I do on every single vPub that has ever existed, I'll wake up in the morning and go, oh, I forgot to make that point. I forgot to say that thing. I forgot to clarify this or that or the next thing. But there's always next week's vPub. So I learn not to worry about it. I hope after 2 hours of me going through all of this nonsense that I have only appreciated my own community, that I've not thrown shade on other communities or other models, and that some of you will decide that it's fun to stay till the quiz at the end. Tonight's quiz at the end is a fun one. I enjoyed last week. I enjoyed the fact that so many of you managed to get right till the end and even steal away a 10 out of 10. It was great fun to see again. Alan Smith is saying, when is the next lock-in? Alan, my friend, it's on Sunday night. So the lock-in is this coming Sunday. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you all there. A lock-in, what is that? In order to transparency, I try not to distinguish between patrons and non-patrons, but I have to respect the fact that people have stepped forward. So monthly, I missed April. Monthly, I do a Patreon lock-in. On a Sunday night, we get together. There's no theme or anything. We just have a very relaxed, laid-back, chatty chat vPub on a Sunday night. It tends to go out a wee bit earlier, usually at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, and that happens once a month for patrons. The other thing I do distinguish is that in Patreon and the tiers, the disciples, ambassadors, and evangelists, if there is a community bottling or something where it's a limited number, tickets, events, that kind of thing, I'll always go top tier first. It's the only way to manage it. That's the only way that I distinguish or make a difference between one and the other. Just to be clear. Jeff Whiskey saying time to parachute. He's scared of the quiz, Jeff. Come on. 5 hours till the little one wakes up. Okay, fair enough. Cheers to you from the bottom of my heart and glass. And cheers right back at you. Jeff Whiskey. I hope you're coming to Glasgow again this year, buddy. Justin Wannistein, got to leave again early. I missed so many quizzes. Justin, it's the middle of the night for you. You're in Hong Kong. It's already, you should be thinking about getting up. Please go get some rest, my friend. Hopefully I'll be able to make it on Sunday. I look forward to it, Justin. Jimmy Legacy, and I'm expecting restitution for April. That's right. I owe you, Jimmy. I owe you. Whiskey 101 is saying my conclusion is that I am okay to accept any whiskey from any distillery and will publicly say I love it. The 3 viewers on my channel will just have to live with it. That's right. German is saying, one man's pound is another man's £100. Each contribution is a compliment to you and the community. Thank you, Herman. That's a wonderful way to summarise it, and it's exactly how I'll treat it. Whiskey with Money saying on Sunday I'll be in the Hydro with 11,500 Celtic fans, so apologies in advance. Well, I can understand that. I can understand how that would be an event that would distract your attention, Ben. Fantastic. Matt Horsham is saying, if Menno has pulled the pin, I'm keeping my head below the parapet for this quiz. Good night all, and thanks for a nice evening, Slancha. Menno has nothing to do with this one tonight, but I suspect he'll be here soon. Justin Ryan is saying it's very sunny outside, no signs of night. Justin, please go rest. MM Karsten is here. I got to meet MM Karsten in Limburg. It was fantastic. We had a wee chat. He gave me a sample. It's sitting here in front of me. This wee dram here is from MM Karsten. This is a Amontillado matured. Come on, zoom in. Come on. From it just does, because it sees my face, it doesn't want to. It's trying. I'll just read it to you. It's an Inchfad, which is a Loch Lomond 15-year-old. Amontillado, as I say, from Dramore. He's put the whiskey base reference down there as well. What he didn't do, which was crucial, is put his name on it. So I'm going to write here M.M. Karsten. So the next time I get a chance to try this, I'll know that it's from him. Graham Fraser saying tickets for Glasgow's Whiskey Festival out on the 18th of May. Aquavite, fantastic. I'm going to talk hopefully more about the Glasgow Whiskey Festival next week. A grain of malt is saying got a bounce before the quiz. Slancha, my friend, Aquavite. Try to catch the Sunday lock-in. Cheers to you, James. Wonderful to have you in here tonight. Let's see how many people are brave enough to hang about for the quiz at the end. It drops below 300 now. Still 273 of you in. Oh, no, that's back then. Why is that? Pause. Let's bring it up live. I think it's now. I don't know if it's now. I can't even tell anymore. I hope that you're up for some quiz at the end fun. Okay, let's bring this in. I think I've covered all the topics I need to tonight. And if I've forgotten anything, I'll share it with you through the channels or next week. Good luck, everyone, for the quiz at the end. Should be a good one. Danny Hebbington is saying, well, this year's vPub AGM was great. It does have a wee bit of an AGM vibe, doesn't it, Danny? I just felt it was appropriate. There was a lot of things going on in the background, and it's just the transparency thing. And I didn't want people to feel like they, in order to be a Barfly, that they had to pay something. It's not how it works. Stay around for the quiz, my friend. I know you always do. Good luck, everyone. 10 questions, all multiple choice. Michael Wood is in here tonight, as he's often mentioned. Even the chimpanzees have the ability to get 3, 4 out of 10. Just on randomness alone. The pass mark is usually 5, and anything above that is a good score. The questions start off easy, then get progressively more tricky. Question 1. Which of these brands releases a virgin oak expression? Let's get these comments up so I can participate with you all in the quiz at the end. Which of these brands release a virgin oak expression? A. Deanston, B. Glengarry, or C. Wireworks? Lowlander is congratulating Drinks Whiskey on the review of Glasgow Whiskey Festival last year. That's the one I missed. It's one I need to see. That would be a good video to watch. Drinks Whiskey, if you want to drop your channel in the chat, a link to your channel, hopefully myself or the admins will clear it so that it's okay for you to drop the link in, my friend. You'd be welcome to do so. A Scotsman based in London, doing lots of original YouTube content. Okay, which didn't, says Greg's Whiskey Guide. Absolutely spot on. Everyone's getting a freebie tonight. Such is the nature of the Aquavite AGM, as Danny says. Everyone gets a freebie tonight. So Deanston have a Virgin Oak, Glengarry have a Virgin Oak, and Wireworks have a couple of different Virgin Oak expressions. There was a time that Virgin Oak was considered just inappropriate for Scotch whisky. How naive are we, right? It's all down to the skill and the balance in the hand that makes it. 2. Which distillery, now focusing on single malts in today's time, was once the largest malt producer in Scotland, at its peak producing over 12 million litres per annum in the 1970s. So we're looking for a bulk producer that now, today, has a much, much bigger focus on single malts, but was once, in the 1970s, the largest producer in Scotland. A, Tomatin, B, Loch Lomond, or C, Highland Park. In the 1970s, the biggest producer in Scotch malt whisky, now much, much smaller, focusing on single malts. Who are we talking about? Just going to have a quick look. I'm going to guess 2.5 litres. 2.5 million litres, sorry, today. Oh, capacity 5 million litres. I suspect that they're making about half that. Mikey Hayes going with the crowd, saying A. And Graham Fraser saying went there in the 1990s. Fantastic. Okay. You're all spot on. Absolutely. A wee bit of a banana skin in there with Loch Lomond. But absolutely, you've spotted it. Tomatin was once upon a time the biggest malt producer in all of Scotland. They've kind of followed the ups and downs of Scotch whisky over the decades, but today they're much more focused on single malts, and they've even got the Kuboken series as well. Question 3. Which distillery has the accolade of being Speyside's oldest operational malt distillery? We're looking for Speyside's oldest. Is it A, Strathearn, B, Strathyla, or C, Strathmill? Remember, I'm trying to make it a wee bit easier for you in the early questions. So even if you don't know this, spend a bit of time, tune over, read the question. The oldest distillery in Speyside is either A, Strathearn, B, Strathyla, or C, Strathmill. Which is it? Rolfie Ebhead is in, so good to see you, buddy. Whiskey Slayer, is that the first time I've welcomed you here? It's good to have you. Christopher Glenn, might be the first time I've mentioned and welcomed you, Christopher. Boomer is here. Good to see you again, Boomer. I always feel guilty when I see so many names in that I forgot to mention, such as James Morgan. Good to see you, James. Nicholas is here. Rob Smith is here. Absolutely. Spot on as well. Can't hide anything from you. Strathyla. Of course, Strathearn is not a Speyside distillery. Strathearn just came out recently with their inaugural release. Actually, the Dramface review tomorrow, I hope you pick that up as a Strathearn review. The inaugural is being reviewed tomorrow on Dramface. So that made Strathyla and Strathmill was a 50-50, and of course we're looking for Strathyla. Question 4. 8 Doors Distillery is the furthest north. Ryan Sutherland was in here again tonight. Ardnamurchan is the furthest west, but which of these is the furthest east on the British mainland? A, Brewdog, B, Kingsbarns, or C, the Borders? Which of those distilleries? A bit of a banana skin to put in the first 5 questions, but hopefully you can fathom it out. I'm not trying to trip anyone up. It should be the obvious one. A, Brewdog, B, Kingsbarns, and C, the Borders. Which of those is the furthest east? Oh no! Sugar Kitty is suggesting the most eastern used to be Glengarry. Yes, I can tell you that this is so under the radar that I haven't ever featured any whiskey from them on the vPub. I have never seen or owned a bottle from this distillery, despite the fact that it's been going for a little while. And there is mature whiskey available from it. I hope that's helping you. I hope that it helps you change your mind. Splitting the crowd, a lot of problems here, says Sugar Kitty. It is, it is, it is. Greg's Whiskey is saying no idea, so would say C. Drinks Whiskey is saying, oh no, it's A. Daisy is in. Good to see you, Daisy. Always wonderful to welcome you, Daisy. Is it A, she's asking? Yeah. Switching to A, says Chris Polak. Oops, says Graham Young. A. Tobias is saying changing to A. Lachlan McKenzie saying A switch. Good. It's still the first half of the quiz. Come on. It is a tricky one, though. It is a tricky one. Brewdog happens to be currently the furthest east Scotch malt whiskey producer. Question 5. Here we have a picture that I took back in, I think, 2016. I took this picture. We were up visiting this distillery, but I want to ask, not necessarily what we are looking at or which distillery we're looking at, although it will help you, but the scenario. A, this warehouse was bombed during World War II. B, this warehouse was the scene of a whiskey heist in a movie. Or C, this warehouse is said to have is said to be Scotland's oldest maturation warehouse. It was either bombed in World War II, it was either the scene in a movie for a whiskey heist, or it was Scotland's oldest maturation warehouse. Which warehouse are we looking at? Rob Smith is saying, wow, not a Graham Fraser picture. I'm exhausted. I've exhausted all the recent Graham Fraser pictures. So for the last few weeks, I've been kind of using my own. Mikey is saying, Roy mentioned World War II earlier. Yeah, it might just be a coincidence, Mikey. Hey. Road to Dram. Alberto is saying, Angel's Share, question mark. Dudar Court is saying B, though I think maybe you're trying to trick me. I'll take the Angel's Share, though. And Drinks Whiskey is saying you forget these banana emojis tonight. No, banana skins tonight. If there is a banana skin emoji, if it's because you just need to slow down and think a little. But there's no banana skin for this one. Absolutely not. I can tell you that bombed during World War II, I think that would be Auchentoshan. C would be Scotland's oldest maturation warehouse, would be Bemore on Islay. This is absolutely the scene of a whiskey heist in a movie. This is Bal Blair's warehouses, where they used it for one of these windows, actually, is where they fed in the hose pipe and things like that to set the scene. The movie I'm talking about is, of course, as it was already mentioned by Dudar Court, it is Angel's Share. Fantastic film, very bittersweet. Some scenes are quite difficult to watch, but very whiskey themed. Charlie MacLaine himself stars in the picture. It's great to see. And the final closing scene of this was actually filmed quite coincidentally outside my house here in the east of Glasgow. So there you go, Angel's Share. I recommend it to everyone. It's a great film. Now it's going to get trickier. Question 6. The undisputed leader in American whiskey is Jack Daniels. But where does it stand in the world whiskey popularity list today? Jack Daniels, America's #1. Where is it on the global scale? A, first, position 1. B, second. C, 6th. Where is Jack Daniels on a global scale? No Rolex, no sex. Good to see you. No Rolex, it's good to have you back. He's saying Stewart's Inquiry, Copper, Rifa Distillery in Kent. Oh, I hope I contextualized it by saying that I was talking about Scotch malt whiskey distilleries. I don't know if I did. Hey, but you know the rules on the vPub, the quiz at the end. If you got that question wrong, and if I made a mistake, such as no Rolex is bringing to my attention tonight, you can claim that point regardless of what you answered. It's free to everyone. Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying, oh, really? Amazing, Aquavite. I don't know what you're referencing, but yeah. Does this count Indian whiskey? Jimmy Legg, unfortunately, yes, when it comes to global whiskey. I say unfortunately. The reason I say unfortunately is that Indian whiskey, by many countries' definitions, can't be called whiskey because of the way it's made, because of the ingredients used. But on a global scale of whiskey sales, absolutely, it does include Indian whiskey. So is Jack Daniel's first, second, or sixth? Anthony McGee is saying that's a high score, personal best for me so far, 5 out of 5. Congratulations, Anthony. Must be due to having a dry night. We'll catch up on earlier content with a drama over the weekend. Fantastic, Anthony. Thank you. And thank you for stepping up for being a patron as well. Can tell you that first place is Indian whiskey, second place is Indian whiskey, third place, fourth place Indian whiskey, fifth is Johnny Walker. Jack Daniels is legitimately sixth place on the global scale. Question 7. Ullevest Distillery in 2023 was the first distillery to open in Inverness in over 130 years. But which was the last to close back in 1985? The last Inverness distillery to close back in 1985. This is just plain difficult. All of these distilleries are Inverness distilleries. A, Glenvore, B, Melbourne, or C, Glenalbyn. Daniel is scoring a 9 out of 6. You're taking your 9, Daniel, regardless of what you score tonight. I like it. I like it. Whiskey Mind Trails Tom on a 6 out of 6 tonight, along with Jimmy Legg, Mike Molasses. You did really well last week, Mike, didn't you? Make a Dram Decision. Chris Pollock, Mikey Hayes, Simon in New Zealand, or Simon, New Zealand. Graham Young, Graham Fraser, Ian Bruce, Simon Ray, Rob Smith, lots of 6 out of 6s tonight. And they all pour in, all the answers pour into this one. Which was the last of the Inverness or Invernessian distilleries to close? Was it A, Glenvore, B, Melbourne, or C, Glenalbyn? I can tell you that you're very knowledgeable whiskey folk. And despite this being maybe the hardest straightforward question I'll ask you tonight, you're spot on. Following the crowd can sometimes be the right way to go. Glenvore, Glenalbyn were both closed in 1983, and Melbourne closed 2 years later in 1985. Ullevest Distillery, within a spit of Glenvore's location, is now making whiskey again. Still to visit, still to try anything, but there you go. Question 8 is a dram-face question. Ardbeg have just announced the launch of its vintage Y2K release from July this year. So this is a 2000 vintage whiskey at 46% ABV, 23-year-old. How much is it going to retail for? How much is Ardbeg asking for their 23-year-old vintage Y2K? Is it A, £267? Is it B, £560? Or is it C, £670? Hopefully you're familiar with this type of question. So even if you don't know this, Mike Molasses is suggesting £100 million in Austin Powers style, right? Jimmy Legg is saying those are the options, question mark. Yeah. Whiskey Radar has got the right emoji going on. Good to see you, Roland. I hope you're keeping well. Why so much, says Greg Whiskey Guide. Spot on. Way too much, says Rolfie Ebhead. It's not for us. Graham Fraser is saying, help crowd. Your wish has been granted, Graham. Lachlan McKenzie is saying, a unicorn's tear might just as well be, my friend. Might just as well be. Whiskey Wine Trails Tom, get the wee dram face emoji popping up there as well. Love it, Tom. Thank you so much. Not interested. Too high, says Pete. Just taking a point, taking a piss, honestly speaking. Everybody's right. Ardbeg for a 2000 vintage whiskey, 46% ABV, so it's reduced. Big deal, it's not that. 23 years old, fantastic. Isle of Malt whiskey, but £670. What is the game that's being played here? I don't know the game, I don't know the rules, and I don't want to play along. Jimmy like is saying, if it's not 267, why did you put that in there? Question 9, second from last. Which of these releases has a seagull prominently displayed on its bottle label? I'm going to give you 3 choices, and I'm looking for the branding that has a seagull prominently displayed. A. Chininic Flora and Fauna Expression. B. Campbelltown Loch Blended Malt. Or C. 3 Ships South African Single Malt. Dacey's on an 8 out of 8, along with Make a Dram Decision, Simon Ray, Mikey Hay, Molasses Mike, again for the second week in a row, Daniel McAvoy, 8, Rob Smith, 8, Good Stuff, Simon in New Zealand, Simon in New Zealand, Daniel Williams, 8 out of 8, Whiskey and Wine Trails, Tom, Bud Jenkins, Chris Pollock, so many of you. There's got to be good 10 out of 10 chances tonight. Graham Young as well. Mikey Hayes saying B, half guess, half crowd. Lowlander is saying B, cheating. I have the bottle right in front of me. Not only are you cheating, Lowlander, but you're helping your entire community to cheat too, exactly demonstrating the power of what we do here week in, week out on much more critical topics, right? Spot on. Campbelltown Loch is the answer. I'm going to reach over. I've got one in front of me as well up on the shelves. There we can see, hopefully, here, the seagull. I know I'm in a small window, but that's fine. There we go. The seagull in a bottle of Campbelltown Loch. That means that tonight, there is a hell of a lot of people out there playing the quiz at the end on a 9 out of 9. So as we celebrate all of this free whiskey tonight, there is a great chance that we're going to be able to celebrate some 10 out of 10 scores as we roll in to the ass hat at the end. This is deliberately difficult. This question is designed to be awful. It's not just knowledge. It's not just the community around us. We need a wee bit of good fortune to succeed. How many operational Scotch malt distilleries have the word Ben somewhere in the name? It's about the same number as A, the years of age stated on Ardnahoe's inaugural release, which is coming out tomorrow. B, the same number as operational distilleries on Islay back in 2003. Or C, about the same number as the number of distilleries beginning with E. Distilleries, I'll clarify just to be sure, I don't want any more Stewart's inquiries. Scotch malt distilleries beginning with E. So, Scotch malt distilleries with the word Ben in the name is the same as the number of years of age stated on Ardnahoe's inaugural release that's coming out tomorrow, or the same as the number of operational distilleries on Islay back in 2003. This is pre-Kilchoman. Or C, the number of distilleries beginning with E, Scotch malt distilleries beginning with E. Enjoyed tonight's vPub much more than I expected to, and it's down to all of you. Thank you all so much for your supportive, positive words tonight. This is splitting everyone as the ass hat should. It's going to kind of tease things out a bit. It's going to mean I'm not going to help anyone here. It's just going to mean that you're just going to commit to something and accept whether you've managed to get to claim the ass hat question tonight or not. I can tell you all, I think I've given you enough time to answer that. The number of distilleries beginning with E is 2, Eden Mill and Edredar. One of them was mentioned tonight. The number of operational distilleries on Islay in 2003 would have been 7. That would have been Ardbeg, Lagavulin, and Lefroy. It would have been Beaumont and Brookladdy. It would have been Colilla and Bunnahabhain. Kilchoman came along in 2005. The number of years age stated on Ardnahoe's inaugural coming out tomorrow is 5. Distilleries with Ben in the name: Ben Nevis, Ben Riach, Ben Rinnis, Ben Romac, and Burnobeny is 5. A is the only answer that's going to get you your 10 out of 10 tonight. I've still got that wee bonus needed thing there. There's no bonus needed. That doesn't need to be there. Let's see who's left us with a 10 out of 10 tonight. Come on, come on. Jimmy Legg is celebrating. Whee! Saying a 10 out of 10. Fantastic. Desi, one short on a 9. I wonder if it was that that took you out, Desi. I'm so sorry. Whiskey Radar Roland is on a 9. Alan Smith on an 8. Danny Hebbington on a 7. Chris Pollack 999 for Petehead Nicholas. Jimmy Jazz. Graham Young is celebrating a 10. Fantastic. Lachlan McKenzie's getting a 10. Mike Molasses for the second week in a row is a 10. Oops, and it jumps. Sugar Kitty, 10. Lachlan McKenzie started hitting the emoji, the 10 button. Superb. Daniel McAvoy, Graham Fraser, pure fluke, says Graham Fraser. I beg to differ. Helen's Wood is celebrating, also like Mike, a back-to-back. Pedro Menezes, a 10 out of 10. It's been such a long time since the last time. Make a Dram Decision, 10, celebrating with a fantastic emoji as well. My first ever, says Daniel McAvoy, 10. Congratulations, Daniel. Well done to you. In Whiskey 101, Nick is saying, wow, my third 10 ever, only one crowdfunded. I go to sleep super happy. Congratulations, Nick. Danny Hebbington, well done to the 10 out of 10s. He's saying, Daniel Williams is taking a 9.5 out of 10. Almost there, buddy. You'll be here soon for the next one. Congrats to everybody on the 10 out of 10, says Desi Leland. I think I've hopefully caught everyone, and Des is also congratulating the 10 out of 10s. I'm tired. That was hard tonight. Some of it was hard. Was it hard? No, it wasn't hard. But it's not a regular vPub. I hope that next week we're going to realign things and bring things back to focus on whiskey content again. It's only once in a blue moon that we're going to dwell on these things. Danny Hebbington, let me reassure you that the AGM around the vPub only comes up once every maybe 5 years instead of it's not an annual general meeting, right? It's every 5 years general meeting. But we talked about some things tonight. I want to make it clear, I want to make it transparent, and I want to make you all a promise that if I have something for free, I'll tell you that it's for free. But always my first choice will be not to have that thing for free. However, if somebody steps up and makes me a gift, like the whiskies over my shoulder here tonight, the Rassie from the Nottingham Whisky Club, or even the bottle of Dornoch from Phil and Simon Thompson, I have to tell you it's a gift. That Phil and Simon Thompson bottle was on the back of me gifting them a bottle of Strathern. I can't turn around and say, no, I don't accept gifts. Sometimes we have to remember that we're people first, right? People come first, then the thing, whiskey, and then the thing it makes, this environment. I will hopefully forever continue to be as transparent as I possibly can. And if I am not, it's probably hopefully because I have forgotten. I am very fortunate to have you to make that easy. Not everyone has that. Please don't judge the people that choose a different path from me. Going to raise this glass. No, I'm going to jump in and catch all the orange that's happening. I don't know, in case I've missed something. Rolf Webhead, my superstar pal from Norway, celebrating being a member for 50 months, saying, cheers to the fantastic, laid-back and fun vPub love. Thank you so much, Rolfie. Thank you for your friendship too. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to Uriah Aquaviti for this amazing community and your transparency. Next week is It a Speyside? And a promise of a recycled review. It's a bit far. You're pushing me a bit far there, Ben, but I'll do the very best I can. I've got something to deliver to you hopefully tomorrow. Sugar Kitty's saying, I think that Ken at Scotch Down Under for the Angels Share movie answer. I thank Ken. Oh, it's Scotch Down Under for the Angels Share movie answer. Fantastic. Pierre is saying, and with that, I'm calling it a day. Thanks as always for organising Aquaviti, and to all of you. See you all next time. Lock in or regular /. Whiskey 101. Nick is saying next week is a balance sheet review and your tax return. The lock in is your appraisal. We will discuss your developmental needs and you'll set some new KPI performance points for me, right? Talking about the reasons For things always hard, Aquaviti, but the chat tonight was really great. Bring on Roddy. Yeah, Roddy is still recovering. He's off whiskey for a wee while, so we're going to just need to rearrange that whole date again. It's a wee bit of a shame. We're both buzzing for it as well, and we know that you're desperate for it too. Listen, for Roddy, for you, for me, for everything that we have achieved so far, and everything that we might in the future, I'm going to raise this glass to just remind you all, as always, that you're very dearly loved, and whatever next week's topic is, I look forward to welcoming you back there. Thank you for everything thus far. Slanch your barflies. Until next week, cheers. That's a mighty good dram, Peter Lee. Wow.